This is the Between Shadow Society Season 2, Part 2. Let's do a bit of recap. So your first threat, your current active threat is the St. Petersburg Mirror. This is the one where a young civil servant is being blackmailed, and part of the blackmail scheme was him confiding some stuff to an alleged medium, Madam Sorokin. And the main reason why this has your attention is because Madam Sorokin has been gifted the allegedly magical object, the St. Petersburg Mirror. And so we have 4 questions here. Three of them are just different ways of resolving the threat. And one of them is specifically about the St. Petersburg Mirror itself, which is not about resolving the threat. And you currently have 6 clues right now. I've also put in a few of the NPCs. I need to add one more there, actually, one more side character who is, I think his name is Orban, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, Count Vasily Orlov, actually. So I'll just put him here. Vasily Orlov. He is a cultural attaché, Russian embassy. And he gave Madam Sorokin the mirror. We have a fair few other characters there as well. One interesting thing that happened in that one that is worth talking about is that Lord Cadwallader, who is dead, did actually appear to the vessel and during the seance. That doesn't necessarily mean Madam Sorokin has real power because of the vessel, but maybe it does. I don't know. It's unclear. But we've left it in, the clues are intentionally very point in different directions as far as what the answer is here, what Madam Sorokin's deal is. So, and then as far as the hunters go, we've got a few conditions on the board right now. Some has quite a few. Some has a permanent one, which doesn't help as far as that goes. Artemis Everly Gray has 1. Mr. Graves has 2. Both Lord and Lady Cadwallader taking a great interest in Mr. Graves. And Miss Blakely is jaded, which feels like it should be a permanent condition, but is not somehow. So that is where we stand with all that. Any questions or anything we want to be reminded of before we begin the day phase?
So the mirror that I saw Lord Cadwallader in was the St. Petersburg Mirror, right? That was
no. You saw Lord Cadwallader just standing over Madam Sorokin. I tried to leave it unclear whether the mirror had any actual power there or not.
Okay.
But a ghostly figure did appear in the mirror, but that could have just been a trick by Madam Sorokin and her associates. So because the mirror has transparent glass. So.
Basically, it was Blakely and some who had looked at the mirror.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The clues are very much like the clues can kind of feed into different theories here. I mean, it might be worth recapping the questions, which is what trickery and deceit does Madam Sorokin deploy in order to dupe those who come to her parlor? Who is truly behind the blackmail ring, and how are they using Madam Sorokin as a pawn in their game? And then one is, if you're convinced of Madam Sorokin's power, how do you know she's a true psychic, but currently only using a small portion of her potential? Given time, what could she achieve? And there's also just a question about the St. Petersburg Mirror as well. So even her power might be separated from the St. Petersburg Mirror, right? So let's talk about the day phase then. shall present a new threat. Our new threat is the Demon of Kilburn Abbey. Let's read it. Bartholomew Gastrel, an old friend of Hargrave House and one of the finest surgeons in London, especially now that Dr. Noble's dead, has told you of his newest guest at the mortuary. The well-preserved body of a girl was found at Kilburn Abbey during recent renovation work, walled up in the basement. Shortly after removing the corpse, dark urges have begun to spread inside the monastery. Statues and paintings have been smeared with obscene drawings. Monks were found in sinful embrace. The abbot himself blasphemed God during Mass, foaming at his mouth. According to Gastrel, each of these events was preceded by a sighting of the walled-up girl wearing pre-century clothes and the most wicked smile. Mr. Graves, since you're probably most familiar of everyone here, a detail in Gastrel's story confirms this is demonic activity. What is it?
I think maybe the presence of a kind of black fluid seeping from the walls of the abbey, that around where the walled up person was sighted.
Very good. We have two questions and opportunities. The first question, how can the demon be driven from the abbey? That's a complexity 6. It allows you to resolve the threat by using innocence or piety as a bait, then performing a banishing ritual. The next question is, why was the demon bound to a girl? It is complexity 8. Resolve the threat by performing a ritual to rebind the demon to the girl's corpse. Thereafter, you have access to a brand new move, a demonic insight. There's also an aspect of the Janus mask available called the Mask of Sacrilege. Each hunter narrates a possible future in which they succumb to a sinful act, thereby endangering their health and or the safety of others. And so that is your next problem on your plate. You have some conditions, remind you about the day phase, not that you all need to be reminded, but you can continue pursuing investigations. You can try to trigger vulnerable moves with other hunters in order to clear conditions. You can try to focus on the dawn question, or just show yourself in London enjoying, as it is, your life. And you might be able to accomplish multiple things in one go as well. So I'll go around the table. Ms. Blakely, what would you like to do today?
I don't have a lot of XP that I need really at this point, unless stuff gets real bad. So I am happy to do vulnerable move with anybody who wants. Otherwise, I'll just go take a little visit to my cathedral.
Mr. Graves?
Yeah, I'm really torn because both of these threats are, I think, distinctly interesting to Graves. We do have quite a few clues to do with the first one. So I feel like it might make sense for me to go and take a look at the Kilburn Abbey. If anyone would care to accompany me, that would be good. But I'm also tempted to kind of, if anyone's got any great ideas for further investigation on St. Petersburg Mirror, my next move there was probably going to be to go to speak to the cultural attaché.
Well, Ms. Everly Gray, what do you think?
I'd be interested in looking into the Kilburn Abbey for sure. However, I would like to access a vulnerable move and invite Blakely to my morning practice. 1, to see if she knows anything further about our strange neighbor Flag. And 2, to possibly address a very rude habit of staring when she thinks I don't notice.
That sounds like a fun scene. And some.
I am interested in a vulnerable move, and would be happy to accompany Mr. Graves if he is going out and would like company, my company specifically. But I think we have enough clues for a solve here.
Oh, for St. Petersburg.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that first.
Do we have
propose
to?
theory?
Do we have to have the? I mean, I know we picked between the 3 questions for St. Petersburg, but I mean, do we have to answer the specific thing about the mirror at the same time?
Not to resolve the threat. You can pursue that if you wish. You don't
Okay.
have to.
Got it.
Yeah, if we do answer that one, we get the reward. And I
There's
like
there's a
rewards.
reward associated with answering that one. Yeah. So,
I was kind of hoping for an opportunity to take the mask of the mirror at some point as well, but if we solve too soon, that's not going to be possible, I guess.
Well, answering the question is not enough to solve the threat, too.
True.
Right?
Yeah,
So
right,
we'll
right,
still
right.
have to deal with the actual resolution
Yeah.
in the night phase. So we'll still have time.
well,
Miss
so
Everly Gray probably wants to check in on some if some actually comes home, because depending on what happens in the morning practice, she'll probably need his help breaking things to make more more targets.
very good, very good. Why don't we have the scene with Miss Blakely and Miss Everly Gray for now? Sounds like a good early morning activity. And just so I can kind of get in my head, Rob, were you thinking of following up with Gastrel at the mortuary because they have the body because they found it well
Yeah,
preserved in the
I
wall,
think that would
or
be
to the Abbey?
Maybe start with the mortuary.
Okay. All right, let's have the scene with Miss Blakely and Miss Everly Gray. Frame up the scene, Miss Everly Gray, and then take it away.
I think
So-
if you wouldn't mind, sorry, Mads, if I could interject just a couple of quick little flashbacks from kind of between the time Everly Gray got to Hargrave House and this time, just small little things to kind of explain some such. I think we'll look at the flashbacks happening as the camera kind of zooms in on Hargrave House, and we see X number of years ago or X number of months ago flash across the screen. Blakely finally notices Everly Gray in the house wearing the hood, a cowl that she normally wears. And she kind of catches a glimpse of her face, and Blakely just stops dead cold in the hallway. And there's a bunch of other quick flashes where Blakely notices Everly Gray in the house or out and about, catching little glimpses of her face. And Blakely just trying to look at her, trying to get a good look, because clearly that's something that's bothering her. Now we can come back to the present. Sorry for the interruption, Mads.
Not a problem. So Artemis has commandeered one of the upper galleries, which is, I believe, above the kitchen somewhere on a floor, because the stone pillars that start from the kitchen go further up the floors at Hargrave House. So one of the big rooms with the stone pillars is a gallery, but she's actually put targets there and cleared out a lot of space. So this way she can do obstacle course / training, throwing things, stabbing things. It's fun. So she has invited Blakely to come there in the morning, regardless of whatever time Blakely wakes up, to talk about Flag, because that was a very strange conversation they had last night in front of Hargrave House, between Hargrave House and Admiral Flag's house. So when Blakely enters or comes to the gallery, she can distinctly hear the sound of running and the distinct chunk of knives getting thrown or stabbed into the various targets around the room. Yeah.
Blakely, I think
You don't see her like right away because she's pretty much in the shadows and she's basically like doing lateral sides or slides from one target to the next.
I think when I walk in, the first thing I do is turn on the lights. Why is it so dark in here? Why do you have to be so dramatic?
You're never going to have full light when you're hunting.
Oh, good
Turn that
God.
down.
And Blakely will, she's not going to turn it down. She's going to hit it with her riding crop and just break it. Better?
I'd expect you to replace that later.
What, do you own the place? Are you so concerned?
No.
Hmm.
We'll see.
What on earth are you doing up here?
Practice. Something
Practice.
useful as opposed to, well, whatever you do. And she's speaking from the shadows. You don't see her just yet.
No.
Although there's a knife that comes very close to your face that goes into a target nearby. Oh, sorry. Did I almost get you? I invited you here because I needed to know something about our neighbor, Admiral Flagg. We had an interesting conversation last night. I didn't know if you happen to know anything useful about him.
The old man next door.
He seemed to think that whatever fun he's going to get up to is going to disturb us. And he invited
What kind of fun could an old person get up to?
That is a very, very good question. Another whistle of a knife near your body this time.
Everly Grey, I
Yes.
dare say you need to be more careful.
I am careful. I can hit the target. She takes a running slide out from the shadows, thunks a knife into a target, and then goes into the shadows across the way.
Well,
Would you like to try? And a knife appears thrown at your feet.
Blakely takes out her riding crop once again, the ruby encrusted one. I dare say you don't know who you're messing with. You think this is a fun game.
It's all a game.
On that, I suppose we agree. And I think then Blakely will whip out the riding crop as, excuse me, as Everly Grey kind of darts from one shadow to another and probably just smack her quickly, maybe in the cheek. Something like that.
Oh, is that the kind of fun we're going to have today? Well, let's see.
That feels like a good cut. I love it. It's your vice, Miss Everly Grey. It's kind of both your vices, actually, but we'll go with Miss Everly Grey's vice for now. You get the bonus. Do you want a clue, or do you want to invite Miss Blakely to ask you a question about the past?
I think this is an appropriate time for, well, it's a bit complicated about the past because she will walk out of the shadows, not getting a straight answer, and then she will take her cowl off. Well, I guess we will not necessarily have a useful conversation today. And then as she takes her cowl off, Blakely, you see it. The hair's different. Shorter, but a different color. But you see the face. you see the nondescript face, still attractive, but older, harder, and those deep, soulful eyes that looked at you in awe so long ago and thought, who better to decorate this cathedral than the most beautiful person I've ever seen? I can capture that sadness in you that I love. And then you realize that it's Artemis talking. And she says, I think if we stick to our own domains, I think we'll do just fine. I will stick to the hunt, and you can remain decorative. And as she was speaking, she had nicked you with her knife and then slowly draws her knife across her tongue. Salty, with a bitter aftertaste, kind of like vampire, but less fresh.
Can I take this as being able to ask you a question about the past?
Sure.
Think on the question. Let's go
I will.
to so it sounds like you were angling for a vulnerable move scene with who again?
I did not have anyone in particular in mind, but if Mr. Graves was going to the mortuary, it seemed like that might be a good opportunity.
You can do it on the way. Sounds good.
On the
If you're
way.
okay with that, Mr. Graves?
Sure, yeah, I'm just wondering what that would frame up like, but yeah, that sounds good.
What are the vices? Breaking
So-
things or
Absinthe.
Absinthe.
Absinthe at this time in the morning is perhaps a little
absinthe in the cab. A weird move.
Yeah, so I think how it goes is you're coming out of Hargrave House. You have a cab waiting for you, and Some is coming up the walkway. He has been gone all night. No one has bothered to care, because who would? He's very stiff and sore because he was under a table all night. He's just managed to extract himself from that, and he sees you about to get in the cab, and he's like, "Where are you going? Is something new afoot?"
Some, yes. There was some news came in this morning. I'm on my way to see a Mr. Gastrel at the coroner's. Would you care to join me?
Coroners, yes. I always do feel home there. I would enjoy going. He'll open the door of the cab for you. I think after you get in, he'll clamber up on the side to get in as well. And the frame of the carriage shifts under his bulk as he lets himself in.
I think as you're like, just before you like get ready to get in, the cab driver looks at you some and gives you like a really askance look and says, "I don't want any trouble in my cab."
Shan't be any trouble, mister.
I take full responsibility.
He's like,
Scout's honor.
and the cab driver just sort of like shakes his head disapprovingly and urges the cab on. So, is there a vice in play?
Yeah, I think Some will open up his coat and pull out a small whittle work that he's trying to do, like a piece of wood, and he's trying to carve it, but his fingers are too clumsy. He doesn't have the dexterity for this, and he just keeps peeling off too much or just snapping off pieces, and then he'll just try and carve it, maybe the same thing but a little bit smaller. And he keeps trying to do this, and the piece of wood is just disintegrating smaller and smaller at the failed attempts at creation as he carries on a conversation with Mr. Graves.
Keep this thing going for a bit.
Tell me, Some, Did you have any education and religious matters?
I can't say as I have in the past few years, though you spend time around here, well, Hargrave House, and you never know what you'll hear. I can't tell if I have an authentic view of what the world is or a very, very strange one. Anytime I try and talk to outsiders, well, they just look at me strange, and I don't know if it's me or the things I'm saying.
The cab driver coughs conspicuously.
What does this look like to you? I hold out the current form of the creation.
I think I'll take it from you. And is it a bird by any chance? It's
Well, it was supposed to be a horse, but the longer I carve it, the more I think it might just want to be a bird. It could fly away.
yes, they say that the skill of the sculptor is in finding the shape that wants to come out from inside the material.
Do you suspect that's what happened to me?
I'm not sure that I'm any fit person to judge that. So, what do you think?
I think this bird does want to fly away. He'll reach his hand outside the cab. Go on, little bird. You can now. Go on. And then there will be a bump, and it will fall out of his hand and shatter on the pavement. Oh dear.
Well, not all birds were meant to fly.
Perhaps not.
Mr. Graves, Lord Cadwallader is sitting next to the cab driver. He looks over his shoulder and he says, "Those scoundrels are coming. They're angry about the events of last night." And then he disappears.
I think Graves just tries to, although he's perhaps visibly a little shaken, that may be something that Sam doesn't take note of too much, but he tries to move on regardless, assuming that this is something that Sam did not see.
Some did
You
not say
look.
that.
You look as though something's on your mind, Mr. Graves.
Well, there are a great many interesting questions that arose from this business with the mirror, but I must confess that where we are going now also has my attention. I suppose my mind is being pulled in multiple directions at once.
Let us check in on the vulnerable move briefly. Do we think that we've cleared any conditions here?
I'm trying to clear numb, I think, by
Sounds good.
trying to work up some dexterity.
Yeah, I think also just probably just like intimate conversation will do it as well. If it's a sort of, if we interpret numb to be a soulful thing as well. I don't know, Mr. Graves. Do you think you have?
I mean, if having received this message from Lord Cadwallader may count as clearing his mark upon me, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm
I think it may
equally
be,
happy with keeping it.
I think it's probably still there. But you get the bonus sum of either the inviting the question or finding the clue.
Let's find a clue as we talk about this mirror.
I'll help you with
business.
that clue. As you, I mean, you still can think of it, but pretty much just a few moments after Lord Cadwallader made his appearance, and while the cab is at a stop, a man steps out of a crowd, fires off a gun, kills the cab driver dead, and then turns the gun on Mr. Graves. We'll come back to this moment. Miss Blakely, have you given any thought to your question?
Yeah, but now I'm kind of now I want to know what happened over there. Um, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So Everly Grey basically took some of Blakely's blood, which is not cool. Blakely I take the riding crop that I have in both hands very hard and shove it right into Everly Grey's neck up against a wall.
You can try. You can
I think it is more of a standoff rather than something that'll hurt. Because I mean, if there was going to be a fight, we know who would win. It would not be Blakely. She says, "What is this? What is this? Who are you? What are you trying to do? What is this?
On earth are you talking about?
Who are you?"
I am Artemis Everly Grey. And this is where she shoves your ruby crop down, disarms you, and then shoves it against your throat. Be careful. I'm sure you can recover quite quickly, but not from a crushed windpipe. What is the meaning of your question?
What do you know about me?
I suspect you are long-lived, as evinced by your fast recovery. And I think someone of my previous acquaintance might have known you a long time ago. So I think you've been here for quite a while, which is why I wanted to find out if you knew anything about Flag. But
I don't know anything about our old neighbor. I don't care anything about our old neighbor. And I want you to stay far, far away from me. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
You may have all the brawn in this situation, but I assure you, things tend to work out my way.
That feels like a cut. And did you all manage to clear conditions in this scene?
I basically, with my workout, I mean, I feel like, you work out.
You work through the pain.
Would get sore. So
yeah, you can
battered and bruised is gone.
You
So
can take that off. Absolutely.
I think I probably cleared jaded. This was definitely
an illuminating moment.
Yes.
I love it. Let's go back to the other scene. This assassin has a gun trained on Mr. Graves. But what do you do?
I think he's within reaching distance, and I would just try and grab him by the chest and slam him against the cab.
Nice, I love it. That's Caliban's Fury. You get to market, you can take advantage on vitality. But first, for the day move, what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid I'm too slow and he'll shoot one of us.
And go ahead and roll with vitality.
Okay.
Advantage.
All right. Okay. So we are at 12.
Very good. Please describe how you, as presumably, kill this individual, or maybe just injure him very badly. I don't know.
Yeah, he might be a useful source of information, but yeah, I think the pistol goes from the cab driver over to Mr. Graves, and then a big pale hand comes out. It sticks out from its sleeve, and you can see the stitching on it. Grasps his shirt, and then a single tug smacks up against the side of the cab, and then it goes out again, and then quick succession, two more, whump, whump, and he drops the gun, and then releasing, and he staggers, and then the hand just gives him a push and he falls out, and the door opens as Sum clears the cab to check on him.
Yeah, you'll have a few moments to do this before police constables will arrive on the scene. You can create your stumbled upon clue as you wish at this moment. I will, as your 12+ bonus, I will give you a clue from the list as well. So you'll get 2 clues for St. Petersburg Mirror here. Or actually, I suppose the other clue can be about the Demon of Kilburn Abbey. That would be a stretch, but I'll leave it up to you. But the one I'm giving you from the list is from the St. Petersburg Mirror. And it is this. As you're going through maybe you like are looking through his pockets, or just like, maybe as he falls down, something falls out of his pockets. He has been paid. He has quite a lot of money, a stack of money. I mean, whether he's been paid or not, who knows, but he's got a stack of money that is Russian rubles. It is not pound sterling. And that's your clue. And you can create another clue if you wish, but Mr. Graves, what are you doing right now?
Graves steps out of the cab and bustles up to Sum and says, "Don't hurt him too badly, Sum. We may need some information. Who the hell is this man?"
An assassin by the look of him, and Sum flips him over and takes his coat and pulls it back so that way like his arms are like pinned behind him, and ties the sleeves around him. Shall I put him in the carriage?
I think that'd be a sensible precaution. I'll take the reins. Let's see if we can.
Police constables
out
are
of here.
showing up, and there is a lot of chaos in the streets. I'm going to need a day move from you, Mr. Graves, to escape in the carriage with the body. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That we're taken into custody by Scotland Yard.
That feels reasonable. Go ahead and make this roll with composure.
My worst. Let's see. I've rolled a 3.
I do need to ask a question out of character because I run a million campaigns. What is the status of D.I. Pettigrew in this campaign? Can anyone remind me?
We only
I've
have ever
met him.
encountered him once, right?
No, you've encountered him twice. Once with St. James, and then 2 when he was harassing Dr. Noble.
That's
at
right.
the
But
mort-
he's otherwise he's still in the mix,
for
though, right?
Nutcracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Because you fail, I am, or because you got a miss. Let me think about this.
I could always use a mask, of course.
You could indeed. I'm just trying to debate on how I want this to play out. If you use a mask, it'll bump it up to a 7 to 9, and that could be interesting, and that will just get the attention of Scotland Yard. The miscondition will specifically put a condition on you connected to D.I. Pettigrew. That's basically the stakes here. If you want to bump it up.
Both of those sound interesting. But I think I'll use a mask.
Yeah, the harder move is the condition version of it. So
Right. I just on the basis that I already
and
have
also
two
you don't get away.
conditions.
You don't get away in this case also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think given that I already have 2 conditions that are probably going to take some effort to clear,
Would you like to
I'm keen
use
to avoid a
the
third one.
Mask of the Mirror, or would you like to use a
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Mask of the Mirror is.
Very good. Let's mark that. Well, I mean, it's written right here. Each hunter will narrate a memory of someone close to them who died. What message did they never get a chance to give them before passing? Think on that. I'll need that eventually. And of course, you can interpret that however you wish, given your particular circumstances. But otherwise you get away. Describe how you get away.
I think Graves jumps up onto the box of the cab, takes the reins of the horse and whips them as some bundles the assassin into the carriage. And
Yeah, I'll pull the cab driver down into the cabin with me as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, then Graves just kind of pulls his top hat a bit lower over his head and tries to proceed, hastily, but without making it look like he's being hasty.
For the 7 to 9, basically, the police in Scotland Yard will be on this case because they can't not be, because we're shooting in the middle of the day, but they won't necessarily know Hargrave House is involved. They're just sort of like eyes peeled at this point. So very good. Okay, well, so let's check back in with Ms. Everly Gray after that scene, assuming you're back again by yourself. What are you up to right now?
I wanted to start looking into the Kilburn Abbey case.
Would you be going to the Abbey or joining the others at the mortuary?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Abbey.
Sounds good. And Miss Blakely, what will you be doing for the rest of the day?
I want to do a little bit more looking into the St. Petersburg Mirror. Trying to think of where I would go.
I can give you some clues here or some thoughts if you want. We have you had made kind of a connection with Captain Silas Fairweather from the Navy, who was a guest, and he might know something. We have I don't think you've ever followed up again with Edwin Belmont, but maybe you don't need to. I don't know. We have the cultural attaché. We also have Edwin Belmont's boyfriend, which is the reason why Ed was in this trouble in the first place. So there's that as well. But we haven't named him yet. Or he has a name, but you don't necessarily know who he is. But you can go looking for him, I suppose.
I think. You know what? I think I want to go to the Russian embassy and look into Madam Sorokin.
I love it.
Sorokin?
Sorokin. I've been saying Sorokin, but I don't know, actually.
Cool.
Okay, good. Let's start with Ms. Everly Gray. So Ms. Everly Gray, Kilburn Abbey. I'll paint the scene for the Abbey in general. First, we'll say that it's an old building, as such places usually are. It's probably been here for a century or more, maybe even longer. Echoing hallways, the shadows are weirdly long, and the monks are all very studiously avoiding your gaze. Maybe that's because of all the stuff that's going on right now, the recent troubles. But it could be something particular about you as well, being in the line of work that you're in. Who knows? But in any case, let's paint the scene. Everyone, what signs of the demon's influence do we see upon setting foot in the Abbey?
The occupants, the monks, I suppose, are trying to clean the font where holy water would be. It has been corrupted, and they are just struggling to try and clean it before they can refill it and bless it again.
All of the candles and lights, they're lit, but they're giving off a lot less light than they really should. It's like they're all dampened, and the shadows that they cast, they move in a really strange frenetic fashion that doesn't make any sense. It's almost like there's something there that people can't see.
Yeah, statues and paintings that were smeared with obscene They've been trying to get rid of them, but they're they're still obvious, very obvious. They just can't.
Yeah, I think there are old signs of fire on some of the walls here, perhaps dating back hundreds of years even. But these are very old scorch marks, but there is a lingering burning smell throughout the building as well.
Thank you. So, Ms. Everly Gray, you know the name of the abbot. His name is Claudius. That was given to you by Gastrel. I should mention, I didn't emphasize it in the introduction of this one, but Gastrel he's a friend of Hargrave House. You have easy access to him when you want. So kind of like Rebecca Solomon was. But so Claudius, but there's also just other monks, young monks going about their business, all a little stressed out and a little anxious about the events. What's your first move here? You're able to just walk right in, no one stops you.
Stop the closest monk and see if I can find out where the abbot's office is or where he is.
This particular monk is very slender and young, and he smells faintly of rosemary and lavender. And he says, yes, can I help you?
Yes, my name is Artemis Everly Gray. I am from Hargrave House. I wanted to speak with Abbot Claudius. Is he available?
Oh, yes. The surgeon, Dr. Gastrel, said that someone from your organization might be along. I'm afraid the abbot is presently, and here he gets a little nervous looking and looks down, like he doesn't really want to say what he should be saying. And he says, I'm afraid he's taken a bit ill this afternoon. Perhaps you could come back tomorrow.
Perhaps I could see him now. I'm happy to speak through the door.
All right, but he says, but I must warn you. And he takes your hand. Madam, it is altogether terrible. What's going on here? Ever since we found that body in the wall, things have been different. There is a malady spreading rapidly amongst us. Every night I pray for my brother's strength, but I know that prayers alone will not solve this particular problem. Do you think me terribly blasphemous for saying such a thing?
No, you are being human, which is not to say, altogether easy. So I understand this. Please understand that this is a malign influence. So you and your brethren are not to blame completely.
Are you wearing any accoutrements of your profession, like weapons or other devices or things like that?
She's wearing her hidden knife sheaths in her gloves, as well as her hereditary weapons on her back.
So are those visible though?
The weapons are, the staves are,
Okay.
obviously the knives are not.
Okay. He says, I did a little bit of research into Hargrave House, actually, and based off of these rather strange-looking implements that you have attached to your back, and, well, forgive me for saying, the preponderance of scars on your skin, are you engaged in the hunt of such creatures?
Always.
Well, may your hunt go well then, madam, and may you send this foul beast back to the depths of hell.
He's still holding her hand. She will clasp it and actually give it a bit of a reassuring squeeze, I hope. And she will say, and I appreciate that blessing. Believe me, in my profession, we can use all we can. Thank you. What is your name?
Oh, I'm Brother Elijah.
Elijah. Ah,
And he'll take you to the abbot's office. We'll come back to that. Miss Blakely, you're at the Russian embassy. And you know someone there, the cultural attaché, Mr. What's his name again? Orlov, I think.
Yeah. Vasily Orlov.
Vasily Orlov, the Count, yes. So you do have a sort of contact there if you need it, but what is your approach otherwise?
Would walk in and demand information.
Very good. I think somebody will meet you at the front, and it's a woman who's there, sort of like kind of just directing traffic at the ground floor of the embassy. And she says, "And how are you dressed right now?"
Oh, wearing the over the top blue ostrich feather kind of capelet that Blakely tends to wear, a let's say very extravagant sort of day dress.
Mhm.
Extravagant in the stitching, the embroidery, etc., is actual gold and silver in it. It is way over the top and complete nonsense, but it looks great.
Good. This woman who's by comparison dressed quite conservatively, comes up to you and she says, "Can I help you?"
Oh yes, thank you. Help. I am. Well, let's just say I'm in need of information about a certain citizen of. Where are you from? Russia? Something like that? Yes, so a certain Russian citizen who happens to be living here in London, and I hope that you will give me this information.
And she says, "I'm certainly happy to."
Fantastic. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Now, this person, this Madam Sorokin, she received some sort of gift, I believe, from the cultural attaché, Count Orlov. A mirror of sorts. I'm sure you know all about this.
She says, "It is not my job to know such things, but I would be happy to take you to the office of one of the ministers."
That is exactly what you should do then.
And what was the name of this woman again? This Madam?
Sorokin.
And you do know her first name is Seraphima. So.
Seraphima. I knew we knew it. I just couldn't remember what it was.
She says, "Very well, follow me," and she'll take you down the hall. You get the impression that you're going to get blown off by whoever she's taking you to, and she just wants to get you out of the lobby.
Yeah.
But you know,
That's
we'll
fair.
see how it goes.
I would do the same thing if I was her.
Right? Yeah. Indeed. Let's go to Some and Graves. So, where do you take this carriage and body? Like, where do you go to?
Well, you had said that Gastrel was a friend of Hargrave House.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
I wonder if, given that we were going there anyway, it might make sense to
Yeah.
take
a great place to hide a body.
Yes, exactly.
Indeed,
That was my thinking. Much better than actually trying to hide it in Hargrave House.
So you arrive at the mortuary, and at this time of day, it's actually not very busy because bodies always get dragged out of the river in the night, and so you have a standing invitation from Gastrel if you want to just go in and try to find him. I think that's fine. Somebody might meet you about back and maybe start asking questions about why are you driving a hansom cab and things like that. But
I think it may be best if you wait here with our cargo while I go and speak to Dr. Gastrel.
Of course, it wouldn't be the first time.
I won't leave you alone for long, son.
No. Take all the time you need. And he's reaching into the other side of his jacket and he pulls out like a 2x4, like he's going to start fresh.
When you go in, Graves, one of the mortuary workers will point you to where Dr. Gastrel is. Dr. Gastrel he wears a very, very pristine white coat, and he has a very stately mustache. And when you find him, he's actually drinking a glass of port in the middle of the morning, looking at a body on the table, and he's actually reading some poetry to the corpse, perhaps something by Blake, involving the devil and death, right, and destruction. And he's a little startled when you come in. He says, my apologies, Mr. Graves. I like to, well, never mind. He sets the poetry book down and says, just because someone's dead doesn't mean their spirit can't have some sort of appreciation for the arts, right?
Indeed, Dr. Gastrel. It's a very fine reading, if I may say so. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no interruption at all. Have you had a chance to go take a look at that matter down at the Abbey?
That's what I wished to discuss with you this morning, but we ran into a little trouble along the way. I was wondering if I may, not to put too fine a point on it, but our cab driver was shot by what appears to have been an assassin, and I didn't want to involve the police unnecessarily when we were already in the business of investigating this matter. So I was wondering if I could leave the body with you.
He leans his elbow on the table of the body he's looking at and raises his glass of port to his lips and says, well, Mr. Graves, I can't imagine why you would think that this would be a place to bring such cargo. And he sips the port. But I suppose I can find somewhere here to tuck it away.
I think some will enter the room at this point. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. Dr. Gastrel?
And he looks at you and he says, my God, I have frequently had nightmares. He says this quietly, just so that Graves can hear. I have frequently had nightmares that my subject matter might rise from the table someday and begin walking on its own in some sort of ghastly, ghoulish pantomime. And here my nightmares are fulfilled. Yes, sir. Can I help you?
Don't be stressed, Dr. Gastrel. He's really quite a pleasant fellow once you get to know him.
And some pauses as he sees the book of poetry, and he quotes a verse from it.
Oh. He says, so you read Blake, do you?
I have very limited reading material, and I have perused that same volume time and again. I forget myself. I had to come in and interrupt you. I'm sorry. It seems that our cab driver is leaking and our cargo has expired.
And Dr. Gastrel looks at you, Graves, and says, well, I guess that's my afternoon sorted. And he will get a couple of trusted mortuary workers to help bring the body in. And we'll come back to
intending to just bring you the one body, but it appears there may be a second.
He says, oh, splendid, wonderful. Well, at least we know how they died, right?
These things do have a way of snowballing, growing organically.
Yes, well, we shall talk about the logistics of this arrangement in a moment. Let's just get the bodies inside, and so that none of the police constables poking around will wonder what's going on, at least until we've had a chance to come up with a good story. And he will help you get them in, and we will take a 5-minute break. Brother Elijah takes you to the abbot's office. which is like his room as well. And as you approach the door, you hear whispering from the other side. She's coming. Didn't you feel her? She's coming. And now she's here. Brother Elijah says, I'll leave you to it. And he goes. What do you do?
She will draw one of her staves from its harness and quickly rap on the door. Abbot Claudius.
You'll hear a voice, presumably Claudius, that says, come in.
Oh, that already puts her back up. She will open the door with one hand, but keep the stave in the other. And then slowly open the door.
Indeed. Inside, the room is very simply furnished and plain. Just a wardrobe, a bed, and there's a little desk that Claudius is sitting at. Claudius is a very, very big man. He's bigger even than Barrel Staves was, and Barrel Staves is a big man. He's a hulk of a man, and he looks so big that he almost like looms over his desk, and he looks almost ridiculous in his little chair. And he stands up, and he's wearing, this sort of brown, robe, and he has a very booming voice. He says, I heard rumors that there was a strange woman skulking about the abbey, and I'm sure those were all terrible lies and rumors.
I
Gossip.
don't skulk, Abbot.
Of course not.
I merely pace in. I am Artemis Everly Grey.
I'm Claudius. And he goes to shake your hand, and he has a very, very, big, mattock hand, right? And he shakes your hand, and he says, so I suppose you're here about the troubles?
Yes. Yes.
Well, fear not. We have everything under control. This fiend, this imp of Satan, this friend of the devil, we will use our faith to draw it out and cast it away. I have no doubt about that.
And how has your success been so far?
Well, it has only been a few days, Ms. Everly Grey, and let us not forget, sometimes things take time. It took God himself 7 whole days to create this world, in fact.
So you're saying that in a few more days I should check to see if you're resting from the completion of your task?
Yes, I think that's probably right. And in any case, it won't do to have strange folk about. Everyone is already on edge as it is. It's best if the brothers just focus on prayer and trust that God will guide us out of this mess.
Indeed. She's, of course, holding on to her holy symbol as she's talking to him. But in your searchings of faith, you couldn't possibly mind someone just making sure that things are being done, to hurry the spirits along and cleanse this place of any malign entity.
He shuts the door behind you and he says,
Is there a window? Let me ask you that
"There is."
first. Okay.
He says, Ms. Everly Grey, I know your name. I know your family. I understand that you have, well, your family has experience with matters like this, with casting out demons, with destroying monsters. And even within our mother church, we have such as you who specialize in such things. I understand this work completely, but you have to understand my position. Everyone is, it's enough to keep everyone just under control right now, focused on the work here at the Abbey, and not getting too caught up in tales of possession and demons. I'm of course very, very embarrassed by what happened to me the other day. I'm sure you've heard that I had something of an outburst. But prayer has gotten me through it. Whatever influence this malign entity had on me is gone, I assure you. What are you doing in the meantime while he's sitting here volleying and basically wasting time?
Now he closed the door behind me.
Yeah,
Is he still standing?
he is.
Okay. Well, as he's standing, Artemis is making like she's looking at his stuff, but she is edging towards the window, always looking for an exit, to make sure that she's near it, just in case he decides to be fun.
You're good. Let's cut back over to Miss Blakely. Miss Blakely, you have to wait for a moment outside this person's office while they're given a heads up about you. By the time you're finally let in, you are in the office with, I would say, a very, very dashing, debonair looking man in a sort of fresh blue suit. And he stands up from his desk and he says, you are Miss Blakely, yes? I am Nicholas Samo. And he goes to shake your hand.
I hold up my hand in a, oh, well, I'm not going to shake.
He takes it. He
kiss
kisses.
it.
He kisses the back of your hand. Yes. He
Yeah.
says, this is like how we do at the Winter Palace." And he kisses your hand. And
It's so wonderful to meet people with proper manners.
I must say, I am most surprised to find such refinement in this stinking city.
I could not agree more. In fact, I am here to ask some questions about a particularly repugnant type of person, somebody that may be preying on the vulnerable, just absolutely horrific behavior. If you could possibly help me out, I would really greatly appreciate it.
Make the information move with presence.
Oh. Sorry, I don't remember what my presence is. But either way, this is going to be a good roll.
It's
Oh, that's a
3.
13.
Okay. Very good.
13.
He says, "Yes, well, Olga actually told me some of the details about why you're here, about Miss Serafina Sorokin, and in particular, a gift that was gifted to her by our very own cultural attaché, Mr. Orlov. And you should know that I have been looking into this matter already, Miss Blakely, and so your arrival here is most fortuitous. As it turns out, this Miss Sorokin is, well, she's not actually Russian."
Fascinating. Well then, Mr. Samo, is it?
Yes, yes.
And she pulls out a chair and sits down, puts her hands together. Please do tell me more. I find your voice is very pleasing to listen to, and I would like to hear more of this situation.
And he smiles and says, "Yes, well, she lives in a flat, in fact, here in town, and he's going to tell you where it is because it's written in the threat. Give me one moment."
He's the only person who would actually know anywhere in You can give us any address, the only person who would understand is Rob.
Her real name is Sarah Tanner, and she's from East London. Rob, catch me on my pronunciation. Camberwell? Is that right?
Yep, perfect.
She's Sarah Tanner from Camberwell, East London. She's a daughter of grocers, and she lives in a dingy little flat. And I have the address.
Huh.
All of her business affairs are looked after by her aunt, a Miss Elsie Tanner, who presents herself as her assistant on occasion in her little performances, but is in fact her aunt and keeps the books.
Daughter of grocers. Oof.
Yes, I tend to take your view on such things. The peasants have their place, right, Miss Blakely?
Well, I suppose, people can rise above their station. It's just very few are capable, and even fewer
indeed.
deserve it.
They have their place, and that place is best out of sight. I think you and I are of one mind on such things, Miss Blakely.
We truly are, Mr. Samo. It is an absolute pleasure to have this chat with you. Now, you have this information about this Sarah Tanner.
That's not even your clue, by the way.
Yeah. What else can you tell me about this?
He says, well, it's very interesting indeed. He says, I did look into this matter when I heard about Count Orlov's gift, and in doing so, I was meeting with some people who were looking into it, and we were sharing information, sort of cloak and dagger sort of thing, and I'm quite sure that my drink had been drugged. Because after the meeting at a pub, distasteful place, tarnished brass,
Ugh.
sawdust on the floor, men from the docks. I felt quite woozy, and I'm fairly certain someone drugged me to try to stop me from finding out anymore. I'm
Wouldn't be
happy now.
surprised, people like that.
Yes.
Goodness.
But I'm happy that you and I now are close companions in this matter, that we are confidants, Miss Blake.
We truly, truly are, Mr. Samo.
That's your clue, is that Nicholas Zamo, his drink was drugged when he looked into the matter. But also, your owed a mastermind clue, which we'll get back to in a moment. Some and Mr. Graves, the bodies are safely secured in the mortuary for now. Mr. Gastrel says, I will eventually have to tell Scotland Yard that someone brought these bodies in, but I will make sure that we do not say who.
I appreciate your discretion there, Dr. Gastrel. Thank you.
Now,
some is like cleaning his hands. He's like, would they even believe you if you told them the truth?
He says, I don't know. Some, is it? That is a very profound question, isn't it? Are you the sort of person who entertains profound questions, Some?
I don't know if I have enough perspective to know profound from mundane, though I like to think I am a thoughtful sort.
There's certainly nothing mundane about you, that is for sure. Now, Mr. Graves, is it just happenstance that you ended up here, or were you intending to follow up on this matter at the Abbey?
Indeed. We had heard that the curious case, the body that was found walled up, had been brought here. I was wondering if I might take a look.
Yes, of course. I was wondering if someone was going to stop by from Hargrave House. And he will take you to the body. The body is almost perfectly preserved, despite the fact it's been in the walls of the Abbey for God knows how long, probably centuries. And so that straight away is weird, right? And also further indicates this is a supernatural thing going on. But in any case, he does pull the body out of the drawer and says, Mr. Graves, I assume that your interest and speciality is not medical in nature.
Not as such. For that, I will rely on your opinion, Doctor.
Yes.
How old would you say this body was? The
Well,
manner of dress is most curious.
Yes. Well, going by when the Abbey was built, I'd say this body is at least 150 years old, but its apparent age is 19, 20, perhaps, maybe a little younger.
What do you make of that, Doctor? An anchoress?
Say it again.
An anchoress, perhaps, walled up in the Abbey?
Anchoress, what does that mean?
Like a devoted person who would be
Oh, right,
walled up in the side
of
a church to
to
worship.
Well, perhaps, I don't know. I mean, I don't get on with such superstitious things or things like that. I'm an atheist myself, Mr. Graves, but no, I don't think so.
You shouldn't go speaking such things so loudly, Doctor.
Oh.
You never know who might be listening. He looks down at the woman and looks up at the sky as if to something divine.
Indeed. He says, well, it's just the bodies in here, son. Just Mr. Graves, myself, and the bodies. So he says, so no, I really couldn't say, but I would say that I think she was probably there under duress because, well, if you look at her hands, and he shows you that there are like injuries on her fingertips, like she might have tried to claw her way out or hit the walls. I suppose she could have just been in some sort of ecstatic fugue state that caused her to injure herself like this, but most likely she was there against her will.
How do you account for the preservation of the body, Doctor? It seems almost fresh.
Well, that's why I reached out to you and your colleagues, Mr. Graves. It is an unusual matter. I'll leave you to it. I need to go calm down the boys here with all these strange events and make sure we all have our story straight. And he leaves you to it. So what are you doing?
I definitely want to examine the body. I'm wondering if I'm actually looking at my rites of salt and smoke move to see if there's any.
Love it.
But it doesn't necessarily allow me to commune with the dead.
But it does
It does allow me to observe another time on place.
Exactly.
Which is what I was just thinking. I'm wondering if I can ascertain anything about who this person was when they were alive, when they were walled up in the monastery.
Let's read the move. You are skilled at contacting dark entities in order to perform magical rituals. Choose what kind of offerings they require, and you have put intricate tattoos. Geometric patterns and occult scripts are carved into your skin, spreading further with each use. When you give offerings to the dark entities that are always lingering in your peripheral vision, roll with sensitivity.
Okay. My sensitivity is 2, so I have a 9 total.
Very good. On a 10 plus, the magic works without further cost. Choose your effect. On a 7-9, the magic works imperfectly. Choose your effect and a complication. So you have to choose one from each list.
So yeah, I think the effect will be to observe another time and place. Perhaps the circumstances under which this person was walled up in the Abbey. And one complication?
Yeah, choose one from the list, yeah.
Huh. I'm drawn to the idea that the magic has a problematic side effect.
Indeed. We'll get back to that. Sam, what are you doing in the meantime?
besides waxing philosophic, as apparently some is wont to do, he's looking at the body itself and he's comparing it to him for the freshness and things like that to see how it's maybe similar, maybe how it's different.
I like it. Make a reason roll. With information with reason.
Seven.
Good. Let me wrap up the other two scenes and then we'll come back and wrap up this scene. Ms. Everly Gray. Where'd we leave you?
I was sidling over to the window.
Claudius is, you can tell that, I mean, to be clear, Claudius, I think, is very genuinely upset about everything that's going on and wants to stop it. But you also know that somebody was whispering to someone before you walked in. But he's also pretty obviously doesn't want you there and doesn't want your help. So, yeah. I think he'll just say, well, if there's nothing else, Miss Everly Gray.
So it seems that you have a handle on it. Is that what I'm given to understand? You don't want our help? Is that what I'm also given to understand?
This is, in truth, Miss Everly Gray, I am under the influence of the Mother Superior of our sister convent. She is most insistent that we do not need outside help with this matter.
Interesting. What possible connection could this have with your sister convent? Or has it to do with the body of someone who was with said convent?
Make the information move with presence.
Oh, you want to get me to use a mask, don't you? That would be a 7.
Indeed. He says, well, take a look at the clues really quickly. He says, truth be told, there's something rather unusual about the girl's body that only I noticed. She has a mark, a tattoo on her lower back. No, take it back. A tattoo at the base of her neck on her spine. A strange thing, a symbol, and I've seen that mark one other time. And don't ask me how I've seen it, but I saw it on the Mother Superior, Eudora. And when I recognized the mark, I went to her, and now she is in quite a state. But this is your clue. There's a strange mark on the back of the neck that is also the same mark on the Mother Superior, Eudora. He says, but now that I've told you that, Ms. Everly Gray, I fear I will not be able to hide it from Eudora. She will know that I told you, and you will make an enemy of her. And she is not the sort of person to be trifled with.
Neither am I. Neither am I, Abbott.
Indeed. It'll cut your day, Faze. Let's go over to Miss Blakely. I owe you a mastermind clue. Give me just a moment because I don't have it pulled up right now. Here it is. And it's a small thing, But you will notice on his desk, he has a gold button, like a gold button that might be on like a coat. And the gold button depicts the crest of HMS Chimera. You only know this because the same crest is on the address plate of the mansion next door. He says, Miss Blakely, I hope that perhaps we would be able to continue our little conspiracy of two tonight over dinner.
Yes, I think that would be quite nice. Perhaps just after dusk.
Splendid. Leave your address with the woman out front and I'll send a carriage to pick you up.
Fantastic. I will see you then. Thank you so much for your time and all of your very generous help, Mr. Samo. I really don't know what I would have done today without you.
And he takes your hand and kisses it. He says, the pleasure was all mine, madam.
Blakely walks out, and the second she walks out of the door, her like charming face just freezes into looking kind of angry. This button thing and what Everly Gray was saying earlier, she's starting to think that maybe their next door neighbor is actually going to be a problem. And she doesn't like problems.
Certainly a coincidence, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you have experience with such coincidences and how they can spiral out of control.
Absolutely.
Let us get back over to the last scene at the mortuary. What dice am I owed? What do I owe you right now, Mr. Graves? You got a complication, right? And
I have a complication and
observe another time or place. Okay, good.
Yep.
And what did you get on your roll? Some?
I got the middle result. Yeah,
Let's do some first. So you're checking out the body. And underneath you notice something dangling from the bottom of her dress. And if you push up the dress, you will see that she has a knotted whip wrapped around her thigh. That's your clue. The complication is you feel compelled to take the knotted whip. If you do, you get to add it to your personal quarters. Or you can leave it there.
I think Sum is fascinated with this compulsion. He's not prone to such things, but he resists it and leaves the evidence where it is. Perhaps Mr. Graves could make more of it.
Indeed. Mr. Graves, describe the ritual. What does it look like? And in particular, how is it an offering?
yeah, I think the offering aspect is that we see Graves' face go pale and sweat breaks out, and it's obvious that he's in some considerable pain, but is doing his best to withstand whatever it is that is causing him that pain. Otherwise, there's nothing much in the way of anything to see, but he's grimacing through this pain, he closes his eyes and puts his hands on the body as he reaches out to see what he can see.
Good. And what do you see? Oh, interesting. You see, in another time, it is indeed the buildings are very fashioned, very, very simply. The people just look like mere peasants, and you get the distinct impression that you are looking back in time. And you see the girl, but when she was even younger, like 8, 9 years old, but it's definitely her. And she's crying because she says the devil is going to get her. And her mother says, "Don't you worry, dear. Hush now, hush now. The devil has no interest in children because children do not yet understand the concept of sin. And therefore, you're of no interest. Demons only care about those who know that what they're doing is wrong." But that's your clue. The demon has no interest in children because they do not understand the concept of sin. And the problematic side effect will be handled in the night phase. And so, with all that said, let's end the day phase and go over to the desk.
I think I have a clue from earlier that I owe.
You do indeed. Yeah, you can define it now or whenever you wish, really.
Yeah, I think on the assassin was a note in Russian that somebody has managed to translate in all of this. That's somebody who is fluent enough. And the note says, "Protect our ancient secret."
Good. And there was also another clue on that body, right? Didn't he have a bunch of rubles or something?
He had a bunch of Russian currency.
Good. Got quite a lot of clues there now on that one. 9, in fact. So let's go to the desk. No playbook moves that we have to worry about. Let's talk about Hargrave House. Tonight in Hargrave House, we are going to be taking a look at the reception hall. Do you feel unsettled or at home when you enter Hargrave House, ye mostly new hunters? What do you perceive in the reception hall that reinforces that feeling?
I think when you walk in, very specifically when you walk in from the front door, there's this weird feeling that it's like an optical illusion. The way the hallway or the reception hall looks, the way the stairwells look, the way the doors look. It's something to do with how the wallpaper and the type of wood flooring with it's just there's something about it that it feels like an optical illusion that you don't know how the depth really works in this room.
There is a mirror that is visible whenever you walk through the door. you can see a reflection in it if you come straight in, but it is shattered. I think because to reflect kind of Sum's feeling of not belonging the first time he went out and then came in, he saw himself in the mirror and went over, fascinated, and tried to touch it with his finger, but he pressed too hard and it shattered. No one has bothered to replace it.
It reminds Artemis of, well, her family's estate or home, whatever, ancestral home, because it's big, it's grandiose, has a lot of weight to it. So she feels at home because it reminds her of where she was raised, but there's still that feeling of, I want this weight off my shoulders.
There's a painting in the entrance hallway of a castle on top of a hill, and something about that reminds Graves of his youth, and he feels a sense of security here.
Thank you all. Let's talk about what everyone's going to be doing tonight, what you hope to do tonight. Miss Blakely, you have a dinner date, but you don't have to stick to it, obviously.
Oh no, I'm going to go on my dinner date, and I'm hoping to get some baby resolution for the St. Petersburg Mirror Inn, where we have a lot of clues.
Yeah, if you answer the question right now, yeah, you all might be able to. Yeah, for sure. What do you think? I mean, maybe do we want to answer the question first so we can decide what we're doing tonight? Is that better? Okay. Well, you got loads of clues, and you've got the optional question about the mirror. If you wish to do that, pursue that. Otherwise, you can pursue one of the others. Who has a theory?
So you only get the bonus for the optional thing if you answer the question in the affirmative, right?
If the mirror is genuine, it is a bit yes. If it's not
Okay.
I
genuine,
think we should get it if it's not genuine. It just doesn't do
it
anything.
just doesn't do anything, right? It's
We
a
just get to
mirror.
have it.
Yeah.
Replace the one in the hall.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, yeah.
We just have to shine it up because I think it was smoky or dull or
It's- yeah, it
something.
doesn't
Yeah,
actually
it'll look
reflect very
great.
well.
We'll just
Yeah.
do a
Yeah.
little polish. It'll be beautiful.
Right.
In any case, what do we think? What question are we pursuing, and what is the answer?
I'm always into collecting people, so I would want like the third one, but I think the second one is more to the clues that we actually have.
The blackmail ring.
I think it's the third one all day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
because
where
yeah,
my
the dead
head's at.
child and everything. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
But I also think the mirror is a fraud. So all of the power is coming from her. So that's kind of the problem with my theory, is we're probably not getting the mirror out of it.
This really reminds me of, did we do that unseen with the
Tarot card reading?
tarot card reading where you go into the psychic's tent or something?
Yeah,
and
that's the
you
tarot
have to
card reading.
paint the scene.
Fortune
Yeah.
telling. We
Yeah.
did that second.
And you do the
second
paint the
part.
scene on how the person is actually an actual fortune teller
Right.
and uses magic, but how do we know that?
Yeah, I think we
fake.
have access to that guy.
No,
Oh, Greco, the dream
oh,
guy.
there's Greco
That's
too.
different.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. We were
That's
talking about the
different.
unseen. There's the unseen with the fortune teller, where you have to say how there's like actual power here, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
the
right.
idea
Yeah.
is that there's fraudness,
Right. There's a
but then
front.
there's also the
Right,
yes,
yeah.
Mhm.
that's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you. So I feel like maybe the mirror is part of that. It's a prop, because people, when they don't know what magic looks like, expect flashbangs
True.
when magic doesn't really work like that a lot of the time.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. a true magician needs to have just enough artifice to make it believable.
Yes. I like
Oh,
that.
yeah, often the flat-ear element is there for distraction, and it's not
Mhm.
really part of the true power, right? It's
So I think that leads to the glass in the St. Petersburg mirror being translucent means that part of it, it's not genuine. It's not really a mirror. It's a window. You get something spooky happening. You get a person to stand behind it. Oh, look, a ghost.
and there was also that thing that Artemis found in the garden as well.
It could be meant to be used in conjunction with the fake mirror, because then it's like it's supposed to
Yeah.
show spooky things when lit. So
Right,
one of the blackmailing ring could have lit it before the seance, or during the seance, and then that's
Yeah.
where you see the person in the mirror. But
Yeah.
that's not real.
So does this
Yeah.
imply that the blackmail ring is more to do with the Russian embassy?
I want to say that, I mean, they have a serious interest in this.
And they don't believe Madam Sorokin is, or don't realize that Madam Sorokin is for real.
I don't think so.
So they're trying to they're responsible
I
for
like
creating
that.
the kind of these effects.
Yeah. Because they don't
Right.
trust that there's real magic anyway. They
Right,
just want
exactly,
to
yeah.
Get
Well, why don't we
I
information.
like-
resolve, let's resolve the mirror first. So we're
Okay.
saying that the translucent glass is so that things can appear behind it, or it could be manipulated in some way, and that the candle device that might just generally speak to trickery, right? But
Right.
but it could be that like if you use such maybe a candle can be used behind the glass of the
Yes.
mirror to create some kind of effect or whatever. And
Mhm.
maybe the one you found was just being put there in preparation for the events of the evening. Love all that. That's 2 clues on a 2 complexity. It'd be a flat roll if somebody wants to work another
Right,
clue.
but the answer is no. If we're saying the answer is no, we get nothing from solving this thing. So we should just use those clues for our
That is
our
true as
one-
well. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good
We can-
point. It kind of ties into
because it ties into why she's only using a fraction of her power. She's doing all this fraud stuff so
For
that
the
she's
blackmail
still
ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I
And-
see. So
Which-
maybe she's kind of stringing them along into thinking she's a fake.
well, which question are we answering? Because again, this
Yeah,
is where
good
we
question.
choose. Because I mean,
Yeah.
definitely Artemis fought the blackmail ring, so they're involved. But I mean,
Yeah.
are we thinking that she has power, or she's just faking?
Yes, no, she has true
She
power,
has-
but she's
Okay,
using a
okay.
fraction of her potential.
Sure.
That's like she feels like she needs these props and things, but the truth is she doesn't.
Right.
Oh, I like
No.
that.
It's to keep the blackmail ring like it's basically to play
Happy.
their game, essentially.
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
are we
So is
answering
she
question
part
2?
of the blackmail ring, or is
Well,
she a
that-
pawn of the blackmail ring?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, like, which question are we trying to say?
I think
mean,
we're doing question 3, but we know that the blackmail ring is involved.
Right.
I guess it's not really one of the clues, but
Yeah. So I guess the question is kind of is she deliberately hiding her power from the blackmailers, or is
she unaware of her power?
I mean,
she unaware
those
of her
are
own
all-
power?
Yeah, I mean, those are all additional questions, but we just need to see how we can push our clues together to answer how do we know that she is a true psychic and is only
Yeah.
using a portion of her potential? We know she's a true psychic because of the small child from the
Yes.
dead place,
Yes.
from the man who appeared in the mirror during the seance, or I'm sorry, no, the Lord Caldwell appeared to Mr. Graves standing behind
Right.
him.
Yeah. The man who
But-
appeared during the seance, because we just established in our narrative that the mirror doesn't work like that.
Right. So that could have been a part of the trickery, but I think Lord Cadwallader
Right.
Graves didn't know him, right? So
Right.
even though
Yeah.
Graves has vessel powers, it's
I was
not.
going to say, yeah.
Yeah, but how we know she's only using a fraction of her powers because of all of the artifice,
Yeah.
when she could be revealing this dead child or this true ghost that's standing behind her.
Mm.
And I think the man that appears in the mirror was probably an actual apparition, because if we've established that the mirror is translucent and they set up this candle lit device meant to show spooky things, that's not what we saw. We saw something different.
You saw something more real in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
so
then
it wasn't the
there's-
mirror doing it, but it was.
It was
her
her
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
There was the other vision of someone on the other side in Lady Cadwallader's parlor that
Yeah.
when the curtain dropped, Graves saw, I think, too. So that's the other,
Yeah.
somebody appearing in a mirror because
Yeah, that was
Sorokin
much-
was already at the place several
was much
times and she
earlier,
opened it
yeah.
up. Yeah.
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 And of course, the idea that she's not using her full power because she has this fancy mirror, but it is translucent. It's
Right.
not
She has this.
that
yeah, and-
fakery is still there.
Yeah, and she has the spooky device for the candle that shows spooky things. That device,
Mhm.
in the mirror. Those are both her not using her to her full potential.
Mhm.
And that's, we can tell that she's not living up to her full potential because she's using these props, she's using these crutches
Yeah.
when she could be doing the real thing.
Yeah. For whatever reason.
Right.
And maybe just her being around causes, sort of like the vessel, just being around causes things to happen.
Draws
Yeah,
spirits
she-
to her.
she's
Been
not
to
even
Lady
aware.
Cadwallader's for several times. So I
Yeah.
mean, a mirror in Lady Cadwallader's parlor shows someone from the other side should also be used.
And
as
she
well.
had been in. Lady Cadwallader said she had been there
Mhm.
a lot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
So maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just her power is just
Residual
drawing all
power.
of
She's
these
very
things.
powerful,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's interesting.
Where was the note found again? Protect our ancient
on the
secret?
assassin.
Yeah.
What was the deal with the guy's drink being drugged? I don't know.
Just
His
that
drink. Oh, sorry.
somebody from the embassy, basically somebody from the embassy, drugged his drink, right? Because
'Cause
they
he
knew
was looking into
looking
this.
into this matter.
And he was also the embassy employee, is that right? He was
Yes.
He
Nicholas
is,
Sarnowick.
yeah. And
Yeah.
when he started looking into Count Orlov's dealings with Madame Sorokin, somebody who had access to him drugged his drink, and so you can maybe assume that was somebody who had a connection
You
to the
know,
embassy.
she's not actually Russian, but what if somehow the people in this Russian embassy, like Count Orlov, know that she is what she is and what she is capable of? And that's where the blackmail ring comes in. She is also a pawn of this blackmail ring.
Yeah, or
Because-
some number of them do, yeah.
Which is, again, another reason why she would not use her power to her full potential, because you wouldn't want the people blackmailing you to know how powerful you actually are.
Yeah, so maybe they've got some hold over her as well, and
Mhm.
are therefore able to use her to blackmail Belmont or help in a scheme to blackmail Belmont.
Yeah. And again, she wouldn't want to show her full
Yeah.
power on that.
Yeah.
At a -1 right now. If we're gonna play
I
with that
think-
one.
No, it's
No, we're
a
at a flat
think-
roll. We're at a
it's a flat
flat roll.
Is it
now.
flat?
Yeah, a flat roll.
Oh,
So
I can't count.
think
Sorry.
the how do we know she's not only a true psychic but currently is only using a portion of? Okay. I mean, this is part of the theory. I'm trying to think if it answers the question so we can get credit for the clue. I think there is this conspiracy around this mirror and everything that has been going on for a very long time, but the true power is in this ancestral lineage of psychics. They always have somebody accompany the mirror. The mirror's the fraud, though. The true power resides with this person, and that's the ancient secret.
I like it.
That's good.
That's pretty good.
But
I like
they're-
it.
So does that mean that even though Madame Sorokin is not actually Russian, she's maybe
Part of that
descended
line.
from some lineage
Yeah.
that they're aware of?
Yeah, the lineage is controlled by this government right now. It might not always have been, but it is right now.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
And
That's,
honestly, I mean, can you honestly say, especially if it's about protecting, what if it's a red herring? It's like, he could have told you. It's like, yeah, she's like this peasant chick from this neighborhood, but he's not going to disclose either
Yeah,
everything.
he could be lying.
And, right. I mean,
Yeah.
he's gonna be covering it up because
Right,
he's
yeah.
trying to protect it, or just kind of, again,
Yeah.
lead you astray.
I think
So-
you've got 7 good clues here. The other 2 are they speak to the conspiracy, but they don't necessarily speak to the question of her power, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, does the fact that this is a secret worth killing for, with an assassin with a bunch of money, speak to the power that's worth protecting, or is that not
I
quite,
think
quite enough?
It's also that-
I think it's maybe too much of a bridge to cross, just because they could just be killing you because they just want their scheme to keep going, because they are a blackmail ring, right? Like that.
Yeah.
It seems like they were targeting Graves specifically, which might imply that, he, because they suspect he has.
Oh, he could discover the secret.
Right,
Yeah.
he would be able to see through
Yeah,
better than any other investigator.
that's interesting.
And
theory,
they
too.
drugged Nicholas Zamo's drink because he was just even looking into it.
Mhm.
And they were trying to take out Artemis like that very first night
Yeah.
for the seance. So it's like, yeah,
So they definitely know how
they have their
powerful she
fingers
could
in the
be.
pie, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm feeling 7 of these clues. I don't know
Yes.
I don't know. The other 2 feel just a slightly too attenuated, because the assassin especially could have just been like revenge for Everly Grey kicking their asses the night before, right? Because they've looked into Hargrave House or whatever, right? So
Yeah, but he's all paid up.
that is true too. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and why would he? If that were the case, why would he go for Graves and not Everly Grey?
That's true as well. Yeah, the fact that
Unless they
went for
felt
Graves
like
is
they
the
couldn't
interesting-
handle her.
is the interesting context. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and also they might have gone after Everly Grey because she has a connection to the supernatural as well, right? It's
Mhm.
not like, it's interesting. I'll give you the Russian currency one. So
How come nobody's going after Blakely? Rude.
She's too powerful, too
She's
dangerous.
too conspicuous. Are you kidding? It's like,
They know where to find you.
yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty good roll. It's a +2. Who wants to take it away?
I can. Oh, yeah, God, man, okay. Get ready to use
Alright.
masks, people. 2 + 2 + 2 is 6.
A 6.
Man, that was a lot of work for that.
What could be wrong?
Told you we were gonna use masks at some point.
Well,
Can we use masks for
You
We
have
did.
all
We've
marked
we've
ones.
been. You know how we wasted a lot of our masks last season? It was this.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Oh,
not a
can
waste.
I know.
if we all mark the Kilburn Abbey one, does that count as all of them?
No, that
Or-
counts as
No.
one
Okay.
person
Mm.
marking
That
one.
counts as
and
one.
you can't you can't
Okay.
mark that one anyway because it's not related to that.
Yeah,
So-
it's not related to this
Yeah.
threat.
Right,
yeah.
right.
We either had
So-
to mark the mask for this threat, which we've already
Well, I
marked,
already did
We already
that.
marked.
Yeah.
We already marked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
or
already done.
we mark
Or-
a
oh
different
God! All right, digging into
Amazing.
faster. Future.
Pastor
Great
Future,
start.
I will remind you that some of you, if you want access to old bones, you do need cosmic passage marks. So this might be an opportunity to just get that done. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
for all you newbies anyway. But
let's
yeah,
see.
make your decision. If you're all going to do that, let me know.
That would be hilarious.
I'm gonna mark one of my masks of the past.
Sure, I'll do a mask of the past as well. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I'll do Mask of the Past because I can't do my Cosmic Passages yet. That's too.
Oh, does
That's
yours
too
have some
soon.
intense implications?
Mm.
What does yours do? I'm curious now.
Yeah, no, I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Oh,
It's the beast stuff. Okay, yeah, interesting. Okay, well, so great. You have a 7 to 9 now, which means you are correct, but the blackmail ring will fight you every step of the way. So
Yay.
let's prepare for that. I do need to continue on with the desk phase here. So what is everyone going to try to do tonight then?
I want to go on my date and try to get more information about this blackmail ring situation from my date. And hopefully that'll help lead towards bringing Madam Sorokin under control. That's sort of the plan here.
We shall see how it works out. Mr. Graves, what are you going to do tonight?
Yeah, it feels like it makes sense for us to wait on confronting Madam Sorokin until Blakely's done with that.
Yeah,
With
if
that thread.
if that's what's happening, then we probably shouldn't make our move now.
Right.
Um,
So I think I'm pretty open. I'm interested in vulnerable scene potentially a vice scene or going to, since Graves has not been to the Abbey yet, I think it would be interesting to go and see, where I'd like to see where this person was walled up in the basement of the Abbey, and see if there's anything he can discover there.
Very good. Sam?
I don't know. If we're not liberating our potential new ally, I guess. I think I've just like latched on to Graves for the time being until he tells me off, and I'll just follow him.
And is everything
Graves finds some quite fascinating, so he's
Such a cool team up. I'm sorry. Artemis is actually going to go with Graves and some,
Okay.
but she'll do her usual sneaking around now that she's been to the Abbey, and she'll let them know that. Because also too, maybe because she's female, that they're like getting all whiffy about it. So she'll try to investigate the grounds like she did over at Lady Cadwallader's, and then just kind of keep an eye on the other two while she's doing it.
Sounds
at
good.
some point we all do have to do that Mask of the Mirror as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now.
Okay.
Janice Mask prompts can be resolved. You can do your past, or you can do the Mask of the Mirror, or both. Or you can wait till the dawn.
I'm ready for either one.
Can you say the prompt one more time?
Yeah, it's written here on the threat sheet, but it says...
Oh, it is. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Each hunter narrates a memory of someone close to them who died. What message did they never get a chance to give them before passing? And
Shall I kick off with that one?
Please do.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we see a bedroom, a small, humble garret bedroom with a bed and a woman lying in it. She's quite an attractive woman in probably her early 30s. But she's obviously very sick. She's pale. She's drenched in sweat. She's gasping for breath, slipping in and out of consciousness. And next to her, sitting on a simple wooden chair, is a boy about 10 years of age, with a kind of shock of unruly red hair, reddish brown hair. And he is watching something that he perceives floating around this woman, his mother. But he's unable to talk to it. And he's unable to do anything as she slips away. And the thing she did not get to explain to him was what these entities were that he perceives all the time and why they're interested in him.
Thank you. Who else would like to narrate either the Mask of the Mirror or their Mask of the Past?
I've got my Mask of the Mirror.
Go ahead, Ms.
We
Blakely.
cut to quite a long time ago. We see an old building, kind of tattered, not in great repair, clearly people who own the building are trying their best. It is the orphanage we have seen before for Miss Blakely, where she grew up. We see Miss Blakely, well, she wasn't Miss Blakely then, but we see her as a little child, and she is sneaking into a room very quietly in the middle of the night. In the room, there is a young girl lying in a bed by herself, and it's very sterile. This little girl is feverish and sweating and coughing. Blakely goes up to the little girl, kind of kneels next to her bed, hands up, face on her hands. April, are you still here? And the little girl coughs weakly and says, yes. And Blakely says, are you feeling better yet? The little girl says, no, the doctor says I'm not going to feel better. That's why I'm in here by myself. And I'm scared. Blakely nods, says, you know, you're the only one here I like. I'm sad that you're going to be gone. And I'm sad that you're scared. And the little girl coughs weakly again. Blakely stands up, takes the pillow out from under the little girl's head, and presses it to her face, leaning on it heavily. The little girl struggles a bit, but she's very weak. And after a while, she stops struggling. Blakely takes the pillow away and looks down at her only friend and says, now you don't have to be scared anymore. And walks away, never having said that she loved this little girl.
Thank you, Miss Everly Gray.
Yeah. Before they go out on their planned nightly excursion, Artemis takes down the cowl and actually will remove it and remember her grandmother. After her grandmother became infirm, or at least infirm as the line goes, she was no longer able to hunt or do the tree dancing anymore. She took up weaving. She took up the loom. And one of the things that she had made was a cowl that she wore to the end of her days. But then she had also taken some of her hairs, the ones that were still, well, black and gray, and she actually weaved and sewed them into the cowl. And she wore that to her deathbed. And Artemis was there, sitting, watching the little wrinkled face smile at her, wearing the cowl on her head as she slowly closed her eyes and was about to say something about hunting or even maybe the beast, the last hunt. And she slipped away. And Artemis slowly removes the cowl from her grandmother, the only person to use a nickname. And she puts the cowl on her own head and touches two fingers to her own lips and then presses them to her grandmother's head. And then leaves.
Thank you. Sam, did you want to do your Mask of the Mirror?
Just popped a question in the chat.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I think it's perfect. If I'm okay with
Okay.
it. So yeah.
Okay.
Rob doesn't really gonna say anymore. So
Yeah, but I'm fine with it anyway. So yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mask of the Mirror. We see some in another place, not Hargrave House. There is cheap plaster on the walls that is cracked, floorboards that are uneven, and some is sitting on a mattress that is just on the ground. And he is clutching a book of poetry, I think one that Dr. Noble used to have, clutching it too tightly. Staring at it, and you hear a thump, thump, thumping sound nearby. Thump, thump, thumping. Thump, thump. And the camera would then transition to reveal a barefoot or a bare-chested Pope with taped up hands striking a boxing punching bag, just really, really sweating a lot. And Sum is just sitting on this mattress in the corner of this one room living space, where nearby Pope is hitting this punching bag. And Sum is just kind of rocking on this mattress. Do you think she knew I loved her? And Pope looks over at Sum, looks back at the punching bag, strikes it in a rapid fire burst. Did she love me? And Sum stares at Pope. And Pope just lays into it until he stumbles and falls, collapsing on one hand, exhausted, having swung and missed. And tears are coming down, as hidden among the sweat on Pope's face. And Sum stands up to help him off the ground, but Pope holds up a hand, stands up and grabs his coat and throws it over his shoulder. And without looking at Sum, I'm going out.
Thank you. Well, these will be some tough acts to follow, but I shall do my best. So let us continue on. We'll pick up the other masks during the dawn phase. The unseen. Tonight's unseen is going to be The Bitter End. This is the second row, second one over. There is a brothel in Whitechapel, informally called The Bitter End, which, even by the standards of such disreputable places, is wholly wretched. A young nun, Sister Mary Edward Price, has taken it upon herself to help the Enders, stopping by once a week to provide them with counseling and light medical services. Let's meet the residents of The Bitter End. There are 4 prompts here, and I shall assign them accordingly. The first will go to Amanda. Second will go to David. Third will go to Rob. Fourth will go to Matt. Let's take 5. We'll come back and do the night phase. Let us now banish all that sentimentality with a trip to hell, shall we? And so, but not quite yet. The house is empty, Miss Blakely, while you wait on the carriage to come pick you up. Your colleagues have gone off to do whatever they're going to do. Who cares? Who knows? And the carriage arrives. It does, in fact, bear a flag, the Russian flag, on it. And when you, assuming you step out to meet it, you see Nicholas Samo, who's holding the door open for you. And he says, so how shall we entertain ourselves tonight, Miss Blakely?
Oh, I dare say you can find some form of entertainment for me. I can't imagine that I will be the person deciding on where the date will happen. That just seems terribly progressive.
Well, I just thought that since perhaps this is your city and not mine, you might know some of the finer establishments. But since I get to choose, I think I would like a bit of sport tonight.
Ah, what do you have in mind, my dear?
Well, I quite rather enjoy watching poor cockneys beat the living shit out of each other in the boxing ring. What say you?
Oh, that sounds absolutely marvelous. In fact, I do like a little bet myself. So, yes, let's go.
He says, splendid, splendid. I have a friend who's a bit of a boxing enthusiast, and I think we shall expect to find him there. You probably know him.
Oh,
Yes, Admiral Flagg, your neighbor, in fact.
oh,
Yeah.
the old man next
Well,
door.
He is a legendary figure from your Royal Navy, Miss
Ah.
Blakely, and worthy of your respect.
Yes, 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 sure. That's
Did you know when he was a young officer, he actually captured and defeated the legendary pirate queen of Barbuda?
ah. Now I am beginning to piece things together. You're speaking, of course, of Theodore Brathwaite, or the late Theodore Brathwaite.
Yes, yes. They never did quite sort out how she became the late Theodora Brathwaite, did they?
Not quite, no. Strange situation, I'm sure. Perhaps we'll never know.
He says something in Russian to the driver, and the carriage takes off. Meanwhile, speaking of carriages, carriage dropping the three of you off at Kilburn Abbey, let me just describe the scene briefly. In the yard, the little courtyard past the front gate, there are a number of brothers writhing on the ground, scratching at their faces and pulling at their hair and screaming in the night. And standing in the center of them is the massive Abbot Claudius, calling out in his booming voice, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." It's going on, trying to get this situation under control as the brothers writhe around on the ground, as they claw at themselves, as they flail around, as they scream and wail. And Miss Everly Gray and some, as you step out of the carriage, two of you are immediately met by Rabbi Solomon. She is walking quickly towards you, and she looks past the two of you to Mr. Graves, who is still in the carriage, and she says, "You can't be here right now. You're the reason why this is happening in the first place. It's drawn upon your power, you fool." And she thrusts her hand forward, and her ring glows, and a blast of concussive energy just knocks you to the rear of the carriage, Graves. And she slams the door shut and tells the driver, "Drive on." And then she cuffs the two of you by the collar and says, "Come with me, you two," and pulls you deep into the fray. What do the two of you do?
And Artemis just, well, I mean, as she's being pulled by her cowl, I mean, she's basically at the same motion trying to whip out her staves. And then you start to see especially as we get closer to the situation that the staves are starting to give a little bit of a dim glow, and then she immediately puts them into a sign of the cross in front of her, just to try to ward off whatever is around in a protective gesture. But yeah, the staves continue to glow a little
As
bit.
Rabbi Solomon's dragging the two of you through the courtyard to this situation, she says, "Have either of you ever done battle with a demon before? Of course, I know you have, Artemis. But you, some, have you ever had a chance to tangle with the unholy?"
Myself not included. No.
Ah, there we go. There's that sort of Hargrave House and melancholy. It suits you well, some. It suits you very well indeed. You'll need a
This
weapon.
one seems to be having a hard time. And there's a monk writhing on the ground going after his eyes. And I pull him upright and I make a fist. And then I open my fist and I hit him with an open hand. And he is instantly brought unconscious.
Nice, good. As you're walking across the courtyard, well, we'll come back to that in a moment. Mr. Graves, you just got blasted back into the carriage, and the carriage is riding off with taking you away from the scene. What are you doing?
I think it makes sense to Graves that she's right, that he was making the situation worse, but still he wants to know what's going on. So I think he opens the window, pulls the window down of the carriage, and he holds his arm out. And after a couple of moments, a crow alights on his arm.
I love it. As the other
And
two, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, and he just says, "Morven, it seems I'm not welcome this evening. Perhaps you could go take a look for me." And the crow flies off.
Good. As you are getting deeper into the yard where this chaotic scene is going on, as Claudius's prayer is getting louder and more desperate, you hear from high up, hold on a second. You hear from high up, "Miss Everly Gray! Miss Everly Gray!" And you see Brother Elijah standing on a tower on the edge of it. And he says, "I'm told I must do this for you, Miss Everly Gray. This is all for you." And we shall cut now, we're going a little out of order, to the brothel. The bitter end, Amanda, Georgina, who is dying of consumption. How do we know Georgina is the most popular girl at the brothel?
She has her own room, which is pretty amazing. And it is full to the brim with flowers and gifts from various admirers and other people that live in this brothel and work in the brothel. She is popular amongst the people seeking affection and the people who work there. She's we see Georgina lying in her bed. She's got a cloth of which she's putting over her mouth whenever she coughs. And we have a suitor of hers, one of her many suitors, but this one is particularly attentive. And he's kneeling at the side of her bed, his head on his hands, watching her, saying, "My dear, is there anything I can do to help you? Anything I can do to ease your burden right now?" And she laughs and smiles and says, "Oh no, just thank you so much for the lovely jewels. Please place them over on the counter. I will be happy to see you again tomorrow." And he nods And he leaves, and just minutes later, another suitor walks in, and he kneels down next to her. Did you get my gifts, my love? I sent you the most amazing chocolates I've ever seen in my life, and I do hope that you enjoyed them. And she laughs and says, "Oh, thank you, my dear. Yes, I had them. The rest of them are over there on the counter, and I just thank you so much, and I hope I can see you again tomorrow." And it's just a parade of people bringing her gifts. Nobody really minding that she can't be up to her normal job because she's sick, and they're still happy to dote on her.
Love it. We're going to stay with the unseen for a bit just to get us back in place. David, Nanette, sweet-natured and petite. How do we know Nanette is doing this because she has no other choice?
When she has time to herself, she sits at a small writing desk and maintains a correspondence with her family. She is writing and reading their missives and laughing and kind of feeling down and writing her response. But the nature of this situation is she's writing to them as they are stuck in debtor's prison, like her whole family.
Miss Blakely, the venue. The venue is another one of these underground, grimy places where mostly men, but some women, are cheering on the blood sport and the spectacle. It is in fact the same venue that you went to see rats and dogs fighting, that you went with Pope and Sure Shot so many years ago. Well, a number of years ago now, several years ago. How has the place changed, and how is it absolutely the same?
It is spectacularly grimy and smelly, even more so than the last time, or maybe just Blakely misremembers now, but it is disgusting in here. They don't clean this place, do they? It's disgusting. It smells, it's terrible. That whiff of sweat and excitement is still there, but it's now mixed with the smell of mold and years old blood. So a lot the same, a little bit different.
Indeed, indeed. Nicholas is busy making a wager with one of the bookmakers, and he turns around to you when he's done and he says, I don't know about you, but I find this place very intoxicating. There's something about people who have to do this for a living. They have to take their bodies and allow their bodies to be subjected to this kind of brutality and torture just to make their way in the world, just so that people like you and me and these other people here can have an entertaining night. Don't you find that incredibly ironic and perverse and yet entirely intoxicating and fascinating?
I don't know about intoxicating, but it's like we were saying earlier today. Some people count and some people don't.
He says, and yet, my theory is completely set aside when our friend Admiral Flagg steps into the ring. And here you'll see that Admiral Flagg is stepping into the ring right now. He's still wearing like his sort of like officer's trousers, but no jacket and no shirt. And
is he one of those like surprisingly buff old men?
I mean, he's in good shape, but he's still an old man, you know, he's not like cut or anything, you know.
Okay.
But he's solid, you know. And Nicholas says, I wonder who he's going to be fighting. I wonder who will get the honor of perhaps knocking out a legendary British military figure.
And I think this is actually the first time Blakely has really paid any attention to Admiral Flagg. He's an old man that lives next door. She doesn't care about any of that. But now that he's been brought up a few times, she's definitely kind of taking a look at him, trying to get the measure of him now. She doesn't particularly care who he's going to fight. I suppose, I mean, you say he's this grand fighter, but he is an old man. There's only so much damage he can do to a person.
He says, I have a feeling that Admiral Flagg is incapable of inflicting a great deal of damage, Miss Blakely. We'll cut over to the Abbey. Miss Everly Gray, Brother Elijah is about to jump off this tower. What are you doing? Or what are you all doing? Or the two of you, I should say.
Well, she definitely looks on in horror for sure. But what she will do is that she will point her staves that are in the sign of the cross at him, and she'll speak some whispered words, and then she will send a bolt up to him to like knock him back so he is not going to fall off of the where he is.
Very good. This will be, it's always vitality for you. It would be sensitivity for anyone else. But this will be a night move with vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That he's basically going to well, I'm not going to do it in time. It's not going to reach him in time, and he's gonna toss himself off.
Yeah, and it's worse than that. He is going to land and hit the ground and not be dead. Let's roll with vitality, please.
Oh, please, gods. Yes! 12.
Very good.
No, only 13.
I'll give you a clue as well, but go ahead and describe how you safely get Brother Elijah out of the situation.
Ye gods. Okay, so yes, she has her staves and the sign of the cross, and with the whispered words, basically it sends the dim energy coursing through both staves into the cross part of it, and then sends a force directly to Brother Elijah, knocking him back, so this way he is knocked unconscious, and then he's safer where he is, from the high ledge, or from the high window where he was at.
The doors into the interior of the Abbey fly open, and there is a brother standing there in the door, and he's just yelling at anyone who will listen. He's like, "My God, help us, please, anyone!" And something grabs him from above the doorway and pulls him up into the darkness from the inside. What do you do, son?
I think I'm proceeding straight onward. This seems to be what we're here to deal with, apparently.
You go inside. This sort of entry hall is dimly lit. Just a couple of sconces, a candle or two. Not much light being cast off. And when you cross the threshold, it's surprisingly quiet, given what you just saw. You don't hear the priest, who apparently got pulled into the rafters somehow. What do you do?
What has our Solomon? What is Solomon doing?
Rabbi Solomon's right behind you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm keeping an eye upwards for something moving about.
She says, "Be very careful, son. I have done battle with many demons in my time. And this one is very, very powerful. made all the more powerful because Mr. Graves opened himself up to it. But that is something to chide and chastise Mr. Graves about at a later date.
Have you spotted it yet?
She says, there we are. And if you look up into the shadows, you will see a priest spider crawling on the ceiling. Meanwhile, what is the crow doing, Graves?
I think the crow is circling the abbey, trying to relay whatever it can to Graves, so that he can be aware of what's going on.
Indeed, indeed. And
Perhaps if
it
he can
allows you to
roost.
see distant places. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it can like come and roost in the abbey and see inside. Perhaps.
Yeah, I love it. You can go ahead and take since it's all about seeing distant places, you can take an information move with sensitivity, but with advantage because of the crow. What's it called? Morvain or Morven?
Morven, yeah.
Morven.
Let me just check what my sensitivity is. Okay. Okay, I rolled a 4, 1, and a 6, so that's a 10 plus 2, a 12.
Very nice. You'll get a clue and a mastermind clue. We'll come back to that. I am curious though, are you able to perceive what Morven sees, or does he just relay this to you later?
I think there is some kind of link between Graves and the crow. It's not that he sees what she sees so much, but that she can kind of tell him as she sees it what's going on in some way.
Yeah, good. Let's go back to the bitter end. Rob, Candace, whose 3 children live with her in the brothel. In what ways has Candace tried to create a normal life for them here?
We see the 3 children playing hopscotch in an alley out back of the brothel building, well away from the entrance that the customers would use, and their mother is kind of watching them in between serving customers, and one of them is runs up to her mother, and her mother hands her, look, Georgina gave these to me to give to you, and she hands over a little box of chocolates, and the child runs back down the step and shares them with two younger brothers, and Candace turns to go back inside, and the children carry on playing, even though the sun has set. It's late. Most children would be safely inside by this time, but they're just making what fun they can.
Very good. Miss Blakely. The Admiral is winning his fight quite decisively even. He has a particular level of quite intense brutality in the fight.
Huh.
What makes the way he dispatches the other combatant so brutal? So brutal that it actually causes everyone to stop. They're all cheering and going crazy, but they just get a little uncomfortable and quiet when the fight is over.
The way he fights is so methodical. Like he is a prescribed set of moves. like he's almost not there. He's just hitting and hitting and hitting, no expression change, as if he's somewhere else completely in his mind. And it's very unsettling because normally people react when they cause that sort of damage to a person, but yeah, he doesn't at all, which Blakely actually finds kind of impressive.
And when the fight is done, there's a murmur going around through the crowd. And the murmur finally reaches you and Nicholas. And Nicholas turns to you and says, "He killed him."
Well, I suppose I have to take back what I said about an old man not being particularly dangerous. That's quite impressive.
Indeed, indeed.
I suppose
So-
you won your bet.
He says, yes, I did. I shall go collect my wager momentarily and my winnings. Would you be amenable to having a drink with the Admiral once he's cleaned up?
Oh, that would be lovely. I don't think I have much familiarity with my neighbor, and he is my neighbor, so I think that would be quite nice, yes. Do you mind if I just step into the powder room quickly?
He says, well, I'm not sure what constitutes a powder room in a place like this, but please do.
Blakely is going to find some empty spot because I want to use my custom move, my new custom move.
Ooh.
This whole thing has been very confusing, and a little bit of illumination might be helpful. So my custom move is called the Sapphire, a once per threat information move where Blakely can activate the Sapphire from the Golden Crown from the past season, summoning the ghost of Theodora Brathwaite for a brief time.
Very good. We shall pick up on that when we get back. I owe you a clue for your bonus, Ms. Everly Gray, and I shall give that to you now. And it is this. Ah. I've already given you that one. Can't do that again. Ah. You will notice in the bushes, because you're out in the courtyard, in the bushes, you will find a length of rope that looks like it's been roughly severed from whatever it was attached to. And it's stained with a very thick black fluid that's still sticky and wet. The chaos of the situation is not let up. There are still brethren behind you wailing and moaning. And Claudius is still bellowing his prayer over and over in the center, trying to get control of the situation. What do you do?
Well, first she's going to take the rope and hurriedly tie it around her waist just to make sure she doesn't lose track of it. And then she is going to... Oh, let's add to the chaos a little bit. She is actually going to move her wrists a little imperceptibly, but then she's like two knives appear in her hands. One is going to go into Claudius's kneecap, and then the other one is going to chase after the rabbi and go into the abbey. So
And why are you trying to knock down Claudius? What's that about?
Basically to get him to shut up,
Oh.
because obviously what he's doing is not working.
Very good. You can do that for free, and then follow the other two in. Some, you see the brethren, this brother crawling on the ceiling. What do you do?
It's a high ceiling, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably like 20 feet up. Yeah.
Okay. I think that the attempts to clean the font with the holy water were successful. It took a long time, but they did it. And I'm gonna dunk like a piece of cloth and try and beam it off the ceiling.
Very good. Let's have the roll first. Go ahead and do a. I'll make it vitality for you just because of Calvent's fury, even though I think if we were being super strict, it would be sensitivity, but I'll go with vitality for now.
Okay. $11.
Nice. We'll come back to that. And Mr. Graves, I owe you a clue and a mastermind clue, right?
Indeed, yeah.
Let's do the clue first. Morven, you will see her pick something up in her beak. You can't quite see what it is, but she will deliver it to you eventually. And it's a matchbook from a local establishment of ill repute, we'll say. And the mastermind clue. The mastermind clue is this. Wandering around in this chaotic scene is a goat. Why should a goat be patiently wandering around in this scene? Who knows? But Morven is looking upon it and getting a bad feeling. Therefore, you are getting a bad feeling. Let us return now to the bitter end. For the bitter end. Mads, Mabel, who has gotten a bit long on the tooth. What does Mabel try to do to keep up with the younger girls?
She knows that she doesn't have as much energy, or probably her looks have started to go and her figure, but she tries. She really wants to please, not just get clients, but also to please. So she will dim the lights to kind of create the atmosphere, but also to hide, a few lines, a few bits of padding. And then she will add a little bit touches of makeup, for accentuating things and less accentuating other things. And she will also surreptitiously find out what scents the younger girls are using to kind of give that atmosphere for her clients that come round and give them the sense of youth and vitality. And then she will greet them at the door with the lighting being dim around her door and with her makeup on and her scents delicately applied. And she will grab them by the collar, cuff them into a passionate kiss, and then drag them into her room and have her way.
Indeed. Miss Blakely, let's continue your move. It says, let me find it here. Have you written it on this sheet?
I do have it on the sheet.
Yeah. Ask a single question. And yeah. Do your sensitivity or presence roll.
In this case, I suppose I am trying to figure out what Blakely wants to know what the connection between this Madam Sorokin blackmail ring situation and Admiral Flag is, because clearly they're connected in some way, or else this wouldn't keep coming up. So she takes out the sapphire and runs her fingers over it. It clouds for a moment. And then standing in front of her is Theodore Brathwaite. I'm going to roll. Oh, that is. Am I rolling with sensitivity or presence? Sorry.
Oh, I think it's
In this
probably
case.
since it's up to you. Whatever you wish. It's fine.
Either way, it's either going to be a 13 or an 11. So
Okay. I think you're in good shape
it's
regardless.
going to be
then.
fine. Yeah.
You get a clue
Let's make
and
it
a
the
mastermind
13.
clue.
Yeah, the 13. Let's get that one.
And she appears and she says, "You have quite a lot of nerve calling me to a place like this, especially after our last encounter, Miss Blakely."
Nerve. Well, you should know about nerve and everything you've tried to pull in the past, my dear.
Hmm.
Well, not to beat around the bush, but I do need to require some information. I have heard my neighbor, an Admiral Flag.
I know him well.
Yes, that is what I hear. Now, there's something going on, and I'm not understanding it. Between Admiral Flag, the Russian embassy, some kind of blackmail ring, and a psychic of sorts. Care to illuminate?
I do indeed care to illuminate. I, of course, have a history with Admiral Flag. He and I are, well, we were enemies in our youth, and then we were social equals for a time. You may have missed him, but he was actually there at Brathwaite Hall on that eventful weekend. Admiral Flag cares about one thing and one thing only. Miss Blakely. And that is to destroy the city of London, to burn it to the ground, to pull it up root and stem. And I, being something of a sentimental, spent a good amount of my resources stopping him from doing that. And I fear it's now going to fall to you and your colleagues to do that work, since I have been indisposed. Now, details. What might his interest be in this blackmail ring? Well, you mentioned Russians, and so I have to assume this has something to do with the St. Petersburg Mirror.
And your instincts are correct, of course, my dear, as they always are.
Yes, but I'm afraid you might have missed the trick a bit, Miss Blakely. I think that the mirror might be more powerful than you think. It might actually be an object of some power, like that sapphire that you used to summon me here. I do wonder what would happen if the sapphire and the mirror were to be brought together.
And I assume this is some sort of trick of yours to stop being under my spell.
Oh, Miss Blakely, you have always been very enjoyable when it comes to playing the game. But no, I don't have much power left. I just get to sit in this murky realm and bemoan my terrible fate. But let me tell you this, Miss Blakely. The St. Petersburg Mirror has power, but perhaps not the sort of power that you or your colleagues or anyone at the Russian embassy might think. Shatter it, Miss Blakely. The glass will mend itself.
Well,
That's a
that
clue.
is quite the clue. I will think on what you have presented me, my dear lady. And I suppose this is goodbye for now.
Oh no, I have one more thing to say, Miss Blakely.
Oh, and what is that?
There is presently a creature escaped from the London Zoo, a lion. It will soon be terrorizing the streets. It will be in all the papers. A tidbit that I glimpsed from the other side.
Well, I suppose I will have great use for your tidbits in the future.
Be careful, Miss Blakely. You don't want to end up the lion's prey.
Oh, my dear. As you know, I'm no one's prey. And I think she just puts the sapphire back in her pocket. And the ghost of Theodore Brathwaite fades away. And she heads back into the fighting area to find her date.
Indeed, let's wrap up with the Abbey. Sam, please describe how you use this holy water bomb to take down that brother.
Okay. Can I assume like this dispatches for the moment the issue, or is it like still an ongoing issue?
I'll wrap up the issue. You can just take care of this brethren for now.
Okay. So I think I hit him with the cloth that's drenched in this, and it strikes him in the back, just at the base of his neck, and that causes him to throw his arms back in pain, and he falls. And I cuff him and drag him over, kind of, and put his shoulder blades up on the pedestal of the holy water fount, and I take that cloth and I put it over his face, and I just like am dunking him, and I'm like, Rabbi Solomon, this might be your moment.
She says, yes, but not the way you think, some. And she spins you around. She's surprisingly strong. She spins you around and puts her hand with the ring on your head. And she says, my dear fellow, you are the very concept of creation. You are pure creative energy, a font of power. And I will use it. And you black out. Miss Everly Gray, you just see Rabbi Solomon's hand burning with holy fire, and the light is spreading, driving the demon back, subduing it. And when it's done, Rabbi Solomon says, there, we've bought you a little more time. And she just stalks out past you.
And Artemis yells after her, what did you do to Some?
He's fine. Don't worry about it. Mr. Graves, what is it like, the connection between you and Morven, especially when that connection, when Morven is away and then returns? How do you experience it?
It's kind of in the form of fleeting impressions, I think. He's not exactly seeing what she sees, but glimpses that she chooses to allow him to experience or take part in. But yeah, being a crow, she does like to bring him things back.
Indeed. And the carriage driver comes around and says, "Is there anywhere you'd like me to take you in particular, sir?"
I think a drink may be on order after this evening's events.
Very good. Let's go to the Dawn. Questions. Everyone's getting credit for the first one because you did answer a question. Miss Blakely, did you get an echo in the night?
I don't think I did. Actually, I think I forgot today about echoes in the night.
Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone?
Oh, I don't know about secretly.
Yeah, maybe to Nicholas, but I don't know, maybe not. Did
Yeah.
you create an ornate, over-the-top erotic experience for someone else's pleasure?
Not yet.
Mr.
Still keeping that
Graves.
though.
Mr. Graves, did you experience an echo in the night?
I don't think I did. No, I connected together two unseens, but I didn't connect it to the.
The hunter scene.
Yeah.
Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities as the basis for that advice?
No,
Did you perform a ritual? Yes.
I did use a ritual. Yeah.
Some. Did you experience an echo in the night?
I think so. I tried to echo the cloth over the first woman and then the cloth over the demon.
Yep, I caught that. Were you extra gentle with someone or something because you know how strong you are?
I tried to play that up as I'm carving small things, and also when I slapped the brother rather than punching him.
Oh yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Did you openly walk among people during the day? Yeah.
At the
Yeah. When you
at
came
the
to
spot,
the
I just kind of bustled in like
At the
and I had
mortuary,
to
right?
interrupt
At the
them. Yeah,
mortuary,
the
yeah.
mortuary.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Good. And Ms. Everly Gray, did you experience an echo in the night? Yes, you did. I caught yours. Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt? You're muted, Nance.
I'm not going to say overtly, but I mean, the mention of it with Brother Elijah, and then, of course, getting into the Abbey. I mean, there's some hunt material there.
I don't know how revelous it was, though.
True.
Revelry. Did you taste someone or something else's blood, sweat, or other bodily fluids?
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's right, you did. Yeah, explicitly with Miss Blakely. Yeah, it's good. That scene makes a lot more sense now, too. Or it didn't not make sense, but that moment makes a lot of sense now. So. Good. Okay, great. So let's go to... You can mark New Dawn questions if you wish. No playbook moves. And now I just need your mask to the past. And we're done. So who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Read the prompt first.
Yep. Just find it. Narrate a flashback to the time when you were in your mother's womb that shows even then dark entities were interested in you. And I think we don't see, but we experience this kind of warm place with the pulsing of the heartbeat of the mother. And there are two lives in the process of creation here. And one of them is a little weak, a little lacking in the vitality that its twin has. But into this place comes a third being of a different type, a darker, more unhuman being from beyond the veil. And it speaks to the weaker creature, the weaker life. And it tells him how to absorb the strength of his twin. And sometime later, we're not sure how much later, but there is only one life still carrying on. It was the weaker one, and now it is stronger.
Very good. Let's go next.
I'll go. Narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows the first hunt you went on and what about it disturbed you. Training since before I can actually remember. Blades and staves and training day in, day out, night after night. Building the body and the eye and the mind as much as possible to get ready for the first hunt. At 9 years old, you see a lot, but you may not remember it the same way you would as if you were an adult. The first hunt, we were actually hunting something mundane, a great boar that had managed to find its way onto the property. For whatever reason, all the girls, myself and my cousins, were blooded. Pig's blood mixed with wine. And we were inscripted with some strange sign upon our foreheads and our nose and our cheeks. And we were sent at night, no lights, no torches, to hunt the great boar. All the while, my brother and the boy cousins were back at the feast, in the well-lit ancestral home, celebrating our inevitable success. But I remember that because all of us, myself and my female cousins, were cold and hungry and smelled of pig's blood and wine. And we took down that boar, first with spears, then with arrows, and then with our bare hands, all young.
Thank you, Ms. Blakely, or some?
I can go. My mask is narrate a flashback to when you first met the person you fell madly in love with. We cut to Blakely as a young woman, looking almost the same age she does normally. She is storming into this cathedral. The painting on the ceiling is not covered up yet. It's not tiled over. She refuses to look up. She stomps down a set of stairs into a wine cellar that is very comfortably appointed. There's some torches in there. There's a little bed. Clearly, this is where she is staying at the moment. She's down in the wine cellar, and she goes to a mirror and just screams in rage and starts kind of throwing things around, having an absolute fit. Into the wine cellar walks a priest in priest's robes. I don't know what the thing is called. Whatever the thing is called.
Color.
Thank you. Yes. Is it just priest collar? Anyway, in walks a priest, very handsome, extraordinarily handsome. And he says in a very deep and comforting voice, "Well, you seem to have the look of a woman scorned. Who would scorn you, I can't even imagine, but I do suppose I should check on you." Blakely spins around, just still fuming. "Well, yes. How do you know? Who are you?" He says, "I'm Father Valentine. I preach here on occasion. And you are Miss Blakely. I've been watching you a long time, my dear. This person who has scorned you, I imagine it was the young man I saw you with the other day. If he has done so, he's a complete scoundrel. I've lived a very long time, despite my young appearance. I would never treat someone like you the same way he has treated you. In fact," he says, kind of sidling up to her, "this person who's hurt you, that young man, I have it in my power to, well, I could injure them, but I think in this case, it's probably more interesting if I just completely ruin him. Would that be amenable to you, my dear?" Blakely, still kind of breathing heavy, says, "Well, yes, actually, that sounds like a just, very, very just decision. I think I'm going to have quite a lot of fun with you. Was it Father Valentine?" And he nods, and then he leans in and says, "But just between you and I'm not actually a priest. I just play one. Gets me some tithe. People do love to give money when they think God is involved. But I'm sure you will keep that under your hat, so to speak." Blakely laughs, puts her hand on his arm. "Oh, yes, I can absolutely keep your confidence in this matter." The scene fades out.
Thank you. Some who is not narrating his own memories, but
Right. So yeah, you don't have a true past. Instead, the spirits attached to the body parts you are constructed from stir up memories that are not yours. You can live with these memories or learn to quiet them. Narrate a flashback to someone's childhood, which they are showered with love. Then, if you wish, describe how you quiet this part of you. After Dr. Noble was gone, people didn't know what to do with Some, but they figured it would be wise not to let him out of the house, instead letting him have the run of the place. One day he found himself wandering in the basement and rummaging through random debris and artifacts. He came upon a violin, and he lifted it in two hands, trying to discern what it was, as it made interesting noises when parts of it were touched, and then all of a sudden had a memory, a sense memory of what was supposed to happen with this thing. And there is someone playing the violin as a child, a recital where they're playing a beautiful, sad song, bringing the bow gently across, and the audience of family members and loved ones in this parlor or whatever it is are quiet and attentive. At first, a mother would lean over and whisper some word of acknowledgement of the talent, or some claim of ownership. That's my child. But then everybody hushes as they're drawn in to the piece. It's beautiful and it's moving. And at the end, everybody applauds and everybody wants to shake the young person's hand or pat them on the head or give them a hug. A grandfather gives a good hug and can smell the peppermint on their jacket. And some experiences all of this in an instant, and then spots the bow sitting there in the dust and tries to pick it up and tries to play it. But all of the chords snap as he goes. And he looks at the bow as it gives a sad sound as it's cracked itself. He has cracked it in trying to play it. And he tries again for another, and more of it is damaged. And then he takes it over to the furnace there in the basement, and he places it inside. And he holds his hands over it. And the power of a torch, the flame from inside of him comes out, begins it a fire as he quiets this part of him.
Thank you very much. And that will conclude our session. We're past time, but we'll do stars and wishes. Stars are always things you enjoy, and wishes are things you hope to see next time. I will begin today and say that this was a great session. It had lots of very emotional moments, some very, very powerful uses of the Janus mask. And yeah, like it's just great. Like when I think about like these character archetypes, when I think about the game that I made, when I think about the kinds of experiences that I had hoped to unlock around a game table, I think we're doing that. That makes me really, really happy. Yeah, it was just great fun. And also stars for like this sort of like interesting religious convergence happening in this session. We didn't have a lot of like religion stuff in season one, and so this was kind of an interesting thing. But I also like where it sits with this like almost like spy thriller thing we have going on at the other threat, right? Which is really interesting. So it's a nice, interesting mix, and I think the structure of the game allows for that a lot, and I think that's really enjoyable. So yeah, it's a great session.
Stars to David for breaking our hearts, just shattering them completely all over the floor during the 5-minute break. We were all cursing your name in the best way, of course. That was the way you're playing Some is beautiful. It's beautiful, and I just, if anything bad happens to Some, I'm gonna cry. So, and I'm an ugly crier, so I'm warning you, Jason.
I mean, there will eventually be a scene when Some tries to get acceptance into a family and they call him names and reject him. And
I already hate it.
And he keeps trying. That's the thing, like even after they're so cruel to him. Yeah.
So yeah, everyone watching, you were warned. Ugly crier. I also stars for Mads and Rupp. These characters they're so different from the characters from season 2. I am always really excited to see how characters develop, and I feel like I got a really good handle on these two already. Despite only, being around them for a very short amount of time, but not so much that I think they're predictable. So I'm really excited to see what else comes out of here. Yay.
I really enjoyed everyone's masks today. That was like the fact that we're starting to dig into these new characters was great. Last week we kind of met them, and this week we're starting to find something about who they are. And I don't know, there were so many great moments. Like, I love the second Graves' back was turned, some accidentally killed the guy they were supposed to be keeping alive, and like Graves has just kind of brushed over it. I really liked Blakely and the Russian ambassador fella who, yeah, boy, the Bolsheviks can't come along and shoot them in a basement soon enough. They were
Yeah, I know. So
awful.
I was gonna say they've got like 20 or 30 years to go, but boy, yeah, he's gonna deserve it fully when it comes. Yeah.
Although I'm sure Blakely will just turn into a high-ranking commissar at that point and completely switch sides. But yeah, that was great. And the scene at the beginning with Artemis and Blakely as well, what they were just, that was like something right out of a kind of spooky action TV show with the training dojo and the kind of somebody throwing a knife right next to somebody else's head, and it's just great fun. And yeah, like that really brought home how different Artemis is from Dr. Noble. Like they couldn't be more polar opposites as characters. It's really fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that opening scene with Gray and Blakely, that's my star. Besides like how Jason is unveiling the mastermind. I'm glad that we got several mastermind clues and get a more of a look at what's happening with Admiral Flagg and around the city with people who know him. I really like how you tied the end of season 1 threat to the emergence of the season 2 threat. Like, she's been keeping this in check and now it's your problem. Like, that was great. That was really wonderful.
Yeah, it's almost like they had like a mastermind explorer type relationship, right? Like they had the rival relationship, and then you went and got rid of her, so now he's like your problem, basically. Yeah.
I love the fact that it's like we're doing a bunch of callbacks, whether, on purpose or just brought organically to the table. I mean, I will admit I had planned on Artemis being very familiar to Blakely because it's like I felt like she deserved a fuck you moment. And in a way, I kind of wanted to reward anybody that had watched season 1 to be able to follow along and then be able to see it kind of come back a little bit. I mean, she still resembles the artist, so, we'll see how, if it even affects Blakely at all. Blakely's gonna Blakely, so whatever. But I love our fights.
Yeah, huge stars, Mads, for that idea, for having Artemis be so close in appearance to the artist, because that is just, Blakely deserves to have her mind fucked with. And I really loved that touch. It was really fun.
Yeah, and it's just coming out in different places. I mean, especially with some telling bits of his story, especially if it has to do with trying to remember, Dr. Noble and, having glimpses of Pope, after the end. So, yeah, star, but also like teary-eyed, God damn it, from me to you, David. Thank you. That mask in the mirror was rough. And Jason, again, this game is just allowing us to do so many things with it, and it's just brilliant keeping and just like the mechanics, even like, getting us back and forth with everything that you have to fit into the whole session. And then I liked Crawford Graves' use of Morven. I like familiars. I mean, I think they're cool. I think they're awesome. And then just the fact that he got shoved back into the carriage, and wasn't able to be part of like the
was fun,
end
yeah.
fight. That was so cool. That was awesome.
And I had to go with that, like most obvious of the familiar options. I just felt it was just too perfect, so it was fun.
But that
use
allowed
it.
you to still kind of be in it, like be
Right.
in on it, so you knew kind of what was going on. But then you weren't, and it just gave a good presence for being able to know at least a little bit what was happening. So that was very helpful. And yeah, stars to everyone for the masks and the development of their characters. And yeah, I mean, hopefully, Artemis and the good surgeon at the mortuary will be good friends later.
If I have my main wish is just that yeah, I'm really excited just to kind of see. I want to learn more about Admiral Flagg's history. You have 4 mastermind clues now, so you've unlocked the history bits, and so we'll do some of that. And you were probably going to next session get the threshold where one of the threats becomes a servant of Admiral Flagg, but I may not use it right away. I might wait and hold on to that for a while. And the third threat is going to be fun. I'm bouncing between a couple of them, but I think I'm going to bring back a classic next week that we didn't get to do in season 1. So yeah, see how it goes. Any other stars or wishes?
Just a wish to just like start figuring out how to mark off the hunt. I mean, still
no. So we can do it go right now.
Okay.
So basically, the way it works is it might be something I have to remind myself of a lot. So you filled out the first 2 sections, and you can fill out the rest as you wish. You'll track your hunt. Whenever you mark your hunt, ask another player to describe what you find. Whenever you resolve a threat with violence or are otherwise instructed to do so by something on the playbook or myself, add 1 count to the hunt. I actually was thinking of giving you, since you participated in this like storming of the Abbey, that might probably count. And so let's take a look at this. So if you resolve it peacefully or otherwise instructed to do so, well, I don't know yet. Add 1 count to hunt 0. I don't know if it was it peaceful or was it not peaceful? Because
I mean, I basically put a knife in an abbot's kneecap. I'm like,
yeah, that is true. You did do that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you want me to put an X?
But you also were rescuing somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably an X. Yeah, I think an X.
That's perfectly fine.
But otherwise, yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, I think I would give you an X for that first fight too. Last time.
Okay.
As well.
Cool.
And anything else? Any other stars or wishes?
Yeah, in terms of wishes, I think Graves is due a vulnerable scene at some point next
I agree.
week.
Yeah, completely.
And he's off to get his indulgence and absinthe now after being shut out of the final fight there.
Yeah, indeed. Wasn't even the final fight. It was just a skirmish with the demon. That's all that was.
We'll meet you at the bar, or we'll have it in your room. Okay, so whatever you want.
Good.
Wishes. I want to see more vulnerable moves with these characters. I want to learn more about these characters that you guys are playing and building. And I want to solve the St. Petersburg mirror situation now. Now I'm like, I don't know, extra involved.
I put back on the table that it might be actually,
yeah,
it might be supernatural. So,
and now I want to go and check this out. I want to see what's going to happen if I, bring the sapphire and.
Yeah, well, and like, yeah, and when the rumor she heard was that if you break it, the glass reforms, which I think is meant to be a super overt clue that it might be that it might have actually some power. So,
but if it's really powerful and I break it, it doesn't reform, I'm gonna feel bad. Well,
But I
no,
mean, like,
I will feel bad, not Blakely.
But I mean, like, does that mean, like, we would still have to kind of hunt for more clues to
You've got a few
fulfill?
left over, so
Okay, well, okay.
um okay, so let's go ahead and end the session. I'll go stop the recording.